בחרמון נמס השלג בחצי הלילה, בחרמון זורם לו פלג בחצי הליל. אבא שם על הר השלג בחצי הלילה, שר שירים על נס בפלא עם כל ישראל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. בבקעת תמר פורח בחצי הלילה, הירח שם זורח בחצי הליל. שם אחי ודאי שומע בחצי הלילה את שירנו השמח כאן בישראל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. במדבר הולך החושך בחצי הלילה, שקט הס בארץ גושן בחצי הליל. לדודי עיני נחושת בחצי הלילה, וגם הוא חוגג כמו שכל בית ישראל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. ואני יושב בבית בחצי הלילה, עם נרות וגביע יין בחצי הליל, וכוכב מאיר עיניים בחצי הלילה, לי מוסר ברכת שמיים ולכל ישראל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. שוב צוהל.
Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страны.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння, різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар.
Futures untold.
Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and we have no audio in the intro, but it's good to see you all once again on day 979 of the news. And also today, we're seeing Russia launch full-scale nuclear exercises, which is disturbing to see. And also, Chechnya was attacked by drones today by an unknown source, allegedly, but we have some more info, and it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 48 hours of news from around the world. And really quickly, I do have to say that something has happened with the intro. There's some kind of an audio glitch where the U.S. anthem did not play, so very sorry about that. I know a lot of people were confused and thinking that some kind of a major technical glitch has happened. It probably has, but it's at least not on our end technologically. It's more so something with the intro. But nevertheless, we have absolutely major news to be covering over the past 24 hours and really 48 hours, as we've been able to hear news from pretty much every single corner of the world involving the the Korean Peninsula, the Middle East, as well as Eastern Europe as well. We've been able to hear that today, inside of Chechnya, a Special Forces Academy used by the Chechen Special Forces was attacked today by a drone from an unknown source. We've already been able to hear that Kadyrov has pledged that no quarter will be taken against Ukrainian soldiers that are captured by the Akhmat, and they'll pretty much be executed on sight. The problem is, however, is that the Ukrainian government has never come out and admitted to this drone strike being theirs, which is a pretty standard thing at this point. Whenever the Ukrainians conduct a drone strike, they always say that they were the ones behind it and that was the damage that they caused. We have not heard them make an official statement, which means that this drone attack did not come from them. They didn't even make an official statement before or after Ramzan Kadyrov made the statement that the Ukrainians were to blame. And according to information that we have, the drone was most likely ground launch from the area around Dagestan or Ingushetia, actually moving this from a Ukrainian attack into one of the Russian central government, most likely through the FSB counter-insurgency forces in the area, conducting a continuation of the blood feud against Ramzan Kadyrov, an incredibly major ordeal, and once again showing that tensions are rising slowly in the background. Nevertheless, the Russian Federation is certainly starting to ramp up the tensions, at least on the foreground, as we were able to hear today. that the Russian Federation has officially announced an impromptu nuclear exercise again of their nuclear armed forces throughout the entirety of the Russian Federation, launching tests of their T'Pol-M intercontinental ballistic missile launchers, along with sea-based or sub-based intercontinental ballistic missile launchers up in the area of the Barents Sea today as well. A very concerning situation, and once again, this nuclear test was done with practically little to no warning, once again showing that the Russian Federation is trying to use this nuclear arsenal as a sword against the Western world to get what it wants, or otherwise threaten nuclear destruction as a consequence. Nevertheless, inside of the Kursk Oblast, we've been able to see that within the town of Zelenogorsk, one of the most northerly towns within the oblast, an unknown drone has exploded and scattered its remnants across a decent amount of the central part of the city. We don't know whose drone it was or why it exploded and spread itself over a wide area, a lot like Hassan Nasrallah did when he was hid inside that bunker in Lebanon, but nevertheless, it did. And we are going to be looking at that a little bit more and talking about the hypotheticals behind it, but still, they are only hypotheticals. We don't really have a lot of hardcore proof with anything surrounding that story. Nevertheless, we were able to hear that more North Korean generals will be on the front lines very soon, most likely commanding their forces that'll be on the battlefield. And we once again have a lot more analysis and a lot more information about those North Korean ground forces that we will be able to talk about here in the near future. We also have seen an interesting bit of news coming out of the Middle East, as we were able to see that Israel is continuing its ground operations against Hezbollah inside of Lebanon, and not only that, we were also able to hear an announcement by the Iranian government, if you want to call it that, that has announced that they will be putting a new person in charge of Hezbollah, and we've already heard that the Israelis said for now, meaning that they're going to blow this guy to high heaven very soon. Nevertheless, we also are getting big news out of Ukraine as they've continued to conduct heavy firefights against the Russian Federation, largely holding them in place, although an unfortunate bit of news has been had today as the Russians have captured the central administrative building of the town of Seladove, showing that the town of Seladove, at least as of right now, is halfway under the control of the Russian Federation, and we've also been able to hear that Romania is considering shooting down incoming Russian drones from this point forward, and will most likely pass legislation that will be approved here very soon to further that sort of an idea. Nevertheless, the news was pretty big today, and we have an absolute load of it to cover, and we also have, with the North Korean troop news, a decent amount of news that really ties together what's happening in the Korean Peninsula right now to also what's happening inside of Ukraine. So a bit of a small update with what we know in the Korean Peninsula at this point. But moving on into the major news that we have tonight, we're going to be moving down into the area of the semi-autonomous Republic of Chechnya, one of the Caucasus Mountain region areas inside the Russian Federation, and the one that is ruled by Ramzan Kadyrov, pretty much the Russian equivalent of a mob boss that has been promoted to the leader of an entire region of the Russian Federation. Ramzan Kadyrov has been involved in a blood feud for the past several weeks at this point, after several Russian lawmakers within the State Duma, the equivalent of the Congress in Russia, have come forward or have been unveiled to have an assassination plot made against Ramzan Kadyrov. Kadyrov demanded that the lawmakers be handed over to the Chechens to face swift justice. The Russian government quietly refused this, and then we saw afterwards a never-ending stream of escalations in between the Russian Federation and the Chechen government in between each other over the course of the past few weeks. The most recent escalation was the gunning down of 3 Russian service members inside of a Russian supply truck near to a highway just outside of Grozny, as we saw that a unknown group of gunmen that were Chechen affiliated ended up lighting up an entire military convoy and ended up killing 3 service members and knocking out an entire supply truck, most likely sending another low-level threat to the Russian government. We have seen that apparently today, the next continuation of this form of aggression in between the two sides, it's kind of being on a bit of a low key, but not really that low key. We were able to see that apparently a Special Forces college has been hit inside of the semi-autonomous Republic of Chechnya right here. And that is actually a picture of the building on fire. We can see that there was apparently 2 hits, one on the building to the farther left side of the picture, and one on the central building that looks a bit like a Pizza Hut. Nevertheless, both of the buildings ended up being hit, and it appears that this is one of the most interesting things that's happened so far, at least with a direct attack on Chechnya, and here's why. The Ukrainians have never hit Chechnya before, just to put this out there. Chechnya is not that far away from the closest occupied and active Ukrainian front line. It's only roughly about 550 miles away, which is certainly within Ukrainian drone range. However, The farthest that Ukrainian drones have hit on a steady and historical basis has been towards the area of Stavropol and Krasnodar. We have never really seen Ukrainian drones go much farther than that, and in very rare instances, we've seen the Ukrainian drones have hit around the town of Tuapse or Sochi on the Russian border, or Sochi as it's really called. But nevertheless, we've never seen them make it further into the Caucasus Mountain region or directly strike the semi-autonomous Republic of Chechnya for that matter. Another thing that's added to the mystery of this drone strike today is that the Ukrainians, unlike every other drone strike that has been conducted in recent history, was not admitted to be Ukrainian by the Ukrainian central government. We have heard no statements that have confirmed or corroborated that claim today, and it does appear that the Ukrainians are not taking responsibility for this drone attack. And that is leading us to believe, considering that they always come out and admit when the drone attack was theirs and if they conducted it and what kind of damage it caused, that this drone attack was not conducted by the Ukrainians. It was probably conducted, highly likely, by another party. We were also able to see another bit of corroborating news showing that the Special Forces building had been hit. We were able to get a slightly different picture than the first one we had just a second ago, and we were also able to see the fire from just over the berm on the highway, with the Special Forces building clearly starting to burn down as time started to pass by. We were
it's surprisingly somewhat of a nice building for the Chechens. Like you'd expect, like their special forces university to really not look that nice, but it was actually a pretty high-end building. They had like a large fence around the entire perimeter, and it was like in a cordoned off area outside of the whole city. So kind of unusual. And also, it looked like the roof was mainly on fire, not the whole building. Do we know if it burned down or was it just the roof?
From what we understand, one of the buildings burned down completely, and one of them has suffered moderate fire damage. We're not sure if the smaller building was the one to burn down completely. It looked like, from the picture that we were seeing, it probably is the one that burned down entirely, and the other one has suffered moderate damage that most likely will take it out of service for a little while until it's repaired, and then they'll, of course, start to train more Chechen Special Forces inside of the building. At least from what we know at the moment.
Akhmat? Is that Akhmat where they train in this university?
From what we know, it kind of is. It's the Chechen equivalent of Hustlers University. They pay like $20 a month to go down there, and then they learn like nothing really, and then they just kind of get bamboozled. We think it's kind of like that, at least a little bit. But nevertheless, Akhmat, or at least the leader of Akhmat, Ramzan Kadyrov, who's also the leader of Chechnya, did come out and make a statement about this today and started to talk a little bit more about what was going on with this and his response to it, in a sense. I don't know why this came out as like an NFL post-game press conference, but I'll just let y'all watch the clip and y'all get what y'all want from it.
Обязательно. Чеченец свое всегда возвращает домой. Они нас покусили, мы их уничтожим, покажем в ближайшем будущем такое возмездие, что даже им не снилось. И мы с нами шутить не позволим. Я сегодня дал всем командирам, которые находятся на передовой, не брать плен, уничтожать и усилить борьбу еще более 100%, чтобы понимали, как чеченцы еще могут дополнить свои военные возможности.
Kadyrov seems like he's operating at like 50%, like his energy is not existing, also, by the way, it's like they don't even know really who launched the drone. Like they don't even know themselves. Like they don't even know where it really came from, and they're claiming automatically that the Ukrainians did it. It seems almost like it was an excuse to start going harder on the Ukrainians by the Chechens, by the Chechens. I don't really understand why they're reaching that conclusion.
I'll be honest with you, man. I don't know why in the world they immediately went with this was the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians haven't admitted that the attack was theirs. And on top of that, there's been a lot of questionability as to where this drone attack really came from. And I'll be showing y'all in a second that it looks like it actually came from a neighboring region. But also, Matthew, before we move on, I do have to ask this question. It appears that Kadyrov is constantly referring to someone in the room called Dawn, and my question is Dawn in the room with us right now? Can you see Dawn? Can you talk to Dawn? We need to know how
the Godfather Dawn. He said the Chechnya operates like the mafia, Dawn. So I just refer to the mafia leader all the time, Dawn. Hey, Dawn, how are you doing?
Don. I would like to say Don. Don is my uncle Don, and Don Don did very Don questionable things to me, Don, when I was a kid, Don, or something like that. It's like, bro, it's like, dude, keep the trauma to yourself. But moving on from that, nevertheless, we do have some very interesting information to lead us to believe that the drone attack was not Ukrainian, and it was actually from a surrounding region. And this is the information that we have at the moment that was published by the Kyiv Independent. Drone strike in Chechnya was possibly launched from Dagestan or Ingushetia, according to a source that the Kyiv Independent is keeping a little bit quiet for now. And the attack may be linked to the feud between Chechen strongman Kadyrov and the officials from neighboring North Caucasus republics, according to the intelligence source that Ukraine has. This is once again showing us that there is a lot more to the story than met the eye. A lot of people chalk this up to a simple Ukrainian drone attack, which once again we have no historical precedent for. The Ukrainians have not accepted or actually taken credit for this attack, which they always would in almost every other situation. And not only that, the Chechens were very easy to immediately claim that this was a Ukrainian attack, which we very rarely see. Like, even when the Ukrainians are hitting Russian oil refineries, it takes them a little while to even admit that it happened. And in this particular instance, they came out immediately and admitted that something happened. And this is leading us to believe that something is going on a little bit more than meets the eye in this area. And this may also be showing us that the blood feud is starting to ramp up, and maybe Kadyrov can't take the heat, and he's starting to try and relent and just redirect all of this tension towards Ukraine, maybe, possibly so, but we're not entirely sure. Still, a load of people have been throwing in their opinions at this moment about what actually happened with the drone attack on the Special Forces training camp today inside of Chechnya and who was actually responsible for it. And a lot of people are saying that it was certainly the Russians that were responsible for this, and very few people are saying that it was the Ukrainians. And so, Matthew, what are people thinking about this, and what are you thinking about it as well?
So about 63% of the audience said it was Russia that launched the drones that attacked the Special Forces University of the famed Akhmat unit. And while 15% said it was Russian or Chechen partisans, and only 8% said that Ukraine covert forces probably launched it. And honestly, there is no evidence whatsoever that backs up Kadyrov's claims that Ukraine launched the drones into their Special Forces building. I'm with the enforcer. It sounds to me like either a false flag attempt, so that way they can ramp the war up against Ukraine, or maybe the blood feud is getting a little bit too heated, and maybe Russia did launch the drones, and now Kadyrov's thinking, oh, Don, we should probably back off, Don, before this gets much more serious, Don. And he might be getting cold feet about the whole blood feud thing, now realizing that Russia will attack his country with drones if he gets too far out of hand. So me personally, I would say it's really impossible to say if it was really Russia. So I'm going to be kind of unsure and undecided with the 14%, but I'm leaning toward it probably was Russia. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say, in my opinion, it probably was the Russians. It makes no sense for Ukraine to hit a Special Forces training center inside of Chechnya, considering the variety of targets that they've hit historically. Nothing makes sense about it, because over the past while, we have seen that the Ukrainians have only hit one training camp, and that one was within, I believe, the Oryol Oblast, where the North Koreans were going to be arriving very soon to be trained by the Russian Federation, at least in that general area. And beyond that, the Ukrainians hit a pretty predictable list of targets. They hit oil refineries, ammunition depots. They usually hit maybe some forms of infrastructure at it's rare instances, port infrastructure, not really railroad infrastructure that much, but sometimes electrical infrastructure. We have never seen them attack a training base like this far into Russia. And for them to do that for the first time ever in Chechnya is a little bizarre. Like, I think everyone can admit that that would be really freaking bizarre for, like, their first attack ever to hit a training base of any kind, any place. They're going to hit one in Chechnya. I mean, wouldn't they have flown? Actually, I know they would have flown over multiple airfields that are being used in the war to hit that training base. Like, for example, at Mozdok, there is an active Russian military airfield here with a strategic airlift wing, and not only that, a Russian Army helicopter wing. Like, they flew right over that to go hit the stupid Special Forces training camp used by the ham and cheddar man and his kids. Like, that makes no sense at all. Like, in my honest opinion, that just doesn't make a lick of sense. Like, why in the world would they fly?
Enforcer, I do see a motive, though, why Russia might want to hit the building, because remember, the whole reason why Kursk was so easily invaded by Ukraine was because the Chechens, who were on the border, specifically, I believe it was the Akhmat group themselves guarding the border, they were the ones who conveniently went out for lunch at the moment that Ukraine decided to go and invade in Kursk, and then they literally ran and steamrolled through the whole place and started making crazy progress because the Chechens basically stepped out of the way and let them do it. And what's the one place here that was attacked? It was the Special Forces University where the Akhmat allegedly trains at as well. So there might be a correlation between that as to maybe why Russia would want to attack that specific spot. That could be it.
Yeah, it could certainly be it. It could be a myriad of reasons that the Russians would want to hit the Chechens as payback, or maybe to warn them that the blood feud is going to get a little too nasty for them and they better back off. There's a load of reasons that they could have wanted to do something like this, but there is absolutely no reason to believe at this point, from a logical standpoint, that out of all of the targets that a drone flying to Chechnya could have hit before it made it to Chechnya, that it would hit something in Chechnya of so little importance, like a special forces training center and hitting an empty building. What kind of sense does that make? Like, it doesn't make any sense at all. And on top of that, the Ukrainians would know, just like anyone else would know, that unless you're actually hitting personnel and wiping them out at this training base, it really means nothing. The Chechens could just simply relocate all of these operations to another base, and while it may be a little less efficient, at the same time, the job is being done. It just makes no sense. Like, for example, at Stavropol, there is a massive refinery to be hit at Stavropol, and let me see if I can go and find it here really quickly, because it's on the outskirts of the city. And so let me see if I can find it, because we reported on this not too long ago, and I think it is somewhere around here. This is the industrial area of the city. Here it is. Here's one of the oil storage facilities, at least. They could have hit this, which would have been of far more value and military significance than a training ground. They could have hit Stavropol itself. There is a Russian military air base nearby to Stavropol. This is a civilian airfield, however, so there isn't any Russian military aircraft here, but there is another military airfield nearby that could have been hit. And they bypassed that. They bypassed another airfield at Mozdok. They bypassed a load of vital military resources at Krasnodar, like major refineries, airfields, and the like, to go and hit a special forces training camp out of everything. Like, that just, it does not make sense. Like, make it make sense, folks, because it doesn't make any sense to me. It makes a lot more sense, much like the Kyiv Independent was saying off of their source, that this was actually a Russian-based attack into the area of Chechnya to start making them get a little bit more scared about this blood feud that Kadyrov has already begun, and several Russians have already died for. We do have to remember that at this point, the Chechen blood feud has claimed the lives of 8 Russian soldiers, either members of the FSB or the Russian army itself. And the Russian Federation is probably starting to put this a little bit on the radar, because these mafia-style hits that keep being conducted by the Chechens are probably getting very old very quickly. And so now they're going to pay very dearly for this sort of an action. Of course, only time will tell. Maybe we're reading into this too much, and for some reason Ukraine did one of the most strategically insignificant attacks as deep as they could into Russia ever. Who knows? But I have a feeling that it most likely was, like many of y'all are saying, the Russian Federation that actually conducted that attack. But moving out of Chechnya and a little bit further north and on into some more warmer news, quite literally, we were able to hear that the Russian Federation is beginning new nuclear exercises today. And they announced that today, and the nuclear exercises began today. There was no delay in between the announcement and the actual tests that were done. It was literally instantaneous. Also, by the way, let me once again remind y'all to get familiar with a slightly new face. This is Belousov, who many of y'all will remember, replaced Sergei Shoigu as the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation. So here he is announcing the beginning of the nuclear drills today.
Верховный главнокомандующий, в соответствии с планом подготовки вооруженных сил Российской Федерации, под вашим руководством проводится тренировка по управлению вооруженными силами Российской Федерации, в ходе которой будут отработаны задачи нанесения массированного ядерного удара стратегическими наступательными силами в ответ на ядерный удар противника. Порядок проведения тренировки доложит начальник генерального штаба генерал армии Герасимов Валерий Васильевич.
Товарищ Верховный Главнокомандующий.
I would also like to give a quick shout out, like we did during the stream today, for having the DC Comics The Penguin present at this military briefing. We always love to see the Penguin inside of the Russian Federation. He has finally moved up from the petty crimes of Gotham to the wonderful and illustrious headquarters of the Russian Ministry of Defense. We would also like to thank Lenny from Shark Tale, just to his right, for also being present at this military briefing, because we do know that he is quite busy with his time and usually is trying to impress his father and also work at the car wash inside the movie Fishtail. Nevertheless,
I was wondering who you were referring to as the Penguin earlier today. I was wondering who's he talking about? Okay, now I can see that with this guy. Like, it makes sense now why you were saying that. And also, I did not hear you mention Lenny earlier today in the video. I think that's a new one.
Yeah, I called him Boris, but as I saw him right now, I was like, this is 100% Lenny from Shark Tale. Let me introduce y'all, in case y'all have not seen Lenny from Shark Tale, to Lenny from Shark Tale. So really quickly, let me get him for you. Here we go. And let me just throw this on screen so that y'all have a little bit of a cross reference here. This is Lenny from Shark Tale, and this is 100% Lenny over here on the right side. Without a doubt, that's Lenny. But moving on from that, though, I would like y'all to get a little bit of a long-lasting look at the Penguin and Lenny, who were present at this military conference today.
Тренировки привлекаются. Ракетная подводная лодка стратегического назначения Тихоокеанского флота, подвижный грунтовый ракетный комплекс ракетных войск стратегического назначения «Ярс», ракетная подводная лодка стратегического назначения Северного флота, два стратегических ракетоносца дальней авиации Ту-95МС.
Nevertheless, while we talk about this really quickly, I do want to put y'all back on the Penguin here. But beyond that, one thing I do have to say is that the beginning of new nuclear drills such as this in the second time in a single year is incredibly unprecedented, at least in the modern age, for any nation to do around the world, especially the Russian Federation, who usually only conducts these tests on a large scale like this around annually, meaning only once a year. This is something that they've never really done before recently, and it's starting to show that they're once again trying to remind people in the world that they do have nuclear weapons and they could fire them if they get provoked enough. The problem with that, however, is that they pulled out this threat so many times, I don't even think any people are paying attention to this except for the Penguin and Lenny. Like, I think they're the only people who really care at this point, and that's why they're present. We also understand that Batman will not be attending this meeting, or the Joker, because the Joker is currently inside of China and helping them out to figure out their plan against Taiwan. But moving on from that, and outside of that little clip right there, we did get some videos today, interestingly enough, that were published practically immediately, showing some of the nuclear drills that they were conducting. We did, of course, get to see the tried and true classic, the T'Pol-M intercontinental ballistic missile launcher. This is the road mobile intercontinental ballistic missile launcher that travels around Russia 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, ready to fire at a moment's notice. And we can actually see that it pulled up to a launch pad today and conducted a test launch of one of its missiles. This one appeared to actually launch, unlike the Sarmat, which the Russians have attempted multiple times and failed to launch.
You know, it's gotta be weird as a Russian to, like, see nukes flying around or nukes driving around their cities and towns on a regular basis like that. Seems like a bit of a security risk, but, you know, Russia does Russia.
You know, it really does, man, because you could just have some Russian that's drunk go by with a Molotov and be like, "Охуеть!" and just throw a Molotov onto the side of an actual armed nuclear weapon. It's like, isn't that a little bit, like, troubling to people in Russia that that's just a thing? Like, they don't have any security with these things, by the way. They literally have, like, I think, like, a UAZ 469 leading it and trailing it, and that's all the security that this thing ever has.
It's like you just see a random Russian driving down the road. Oh, Bliat, look, Tony, it's the nukes. It's right there to the right. Oh, yes, that's right, the nukes. They're driving down the road. They're turning on the Bliat Street, Bliat. It's a miracle. We're so protected here, Bliat.
Man, I love to live in the great Soviet Union, known for having multiple dangerous nuclear accidents, traveling around my city streets with a live nuclear weapon, ready to crash into any bastard at any moment and just blow up on the spot, probably, because it's so mismanaged. Man, I love this freaking Russian Federation, Российской Федерации. It's like, you have to be stupid to really think that this is like a logical thing. Like, yes, let's just move them around on land. It's like, you know, there's like a much better way to move nuclear weapons around where no one really knows where they are. Like, we literally, like, there's a thing called, like missile carrying submarines, guided missile submarines. Those are a thing, you know, like, and those are much even like far more difficult to even find. Like, you just put all of your nuclear weapons on a whole bunch of submarines instead of having these stupid giant trucks traveling around for really no reason. But we did get to see the launch here. And there it goes. And we see it from even another angle. They love to show the missiles being fired.
That's one missile they probably couldn't afford to fire, but you know, you got to flex those missiles. You got to look tough.
Yeah, you got to look tough. They also launched some from subs. Sadly, I don't know which variant this is. It's either the Sineva or the Bulava, according to the caption from Nexta. We don't know which missile this was, to be exact, just to make sure y'all know that. But we were able to see some submarines conducting at least drills to launch their missiles today. So here's one of the clips. And there it goes. So peaceful. Yeah, yes. Российской Федерации returns to nature, please. And there
you know what's crazy is when the Russian people get to see these videos, because remember, Russia just increased the military budget a short while ago and started cutting some of these social benefits for the Russians, which are already suffering financially severely. And now they're seeing that money that was just taken from their paychecks and also their government checks. And there they see these large missiles going up and just being completely wasted just to make a point to the West. It's really probably insulting to the Russians to see that.
Yeah, also I like, Matthew, how the Satan blew up in the silo. You know, it's not that long ago. It's like the only new nuclear weapon that they've actually made since the collapse of the Soviet Union. It blows up in the silo. It's a massive national, like an international embarrassment, to be entirely honest. So then the Russians are like, you know what to do to show them that we are dangerous? Let's whip out all of our old Soviet antique weapons that were built by the Soviet Union that by a miracle of God still work, so that way we can scare them with those instead. It's like, yes, this is a great idea. I personally like this one, but we did get to see a nighttime launch of another sub-launched missile as well. Also, thank you, Matthew, for letting me know it said weapons and not weapons. But still, we can see the missile launched right there through the cloud cover and into the stratosphere, where it will then burn up on re-entry.
If there was a good day to launch a nuke, this was probably it. It looks like the apocalypse has already happened.
Kind of does, to be entirely honest. You're not that far off. Like, to be entirely honest, that's not that bad of an assessment. But still, nevertheless, we are understanding that the Russians are once again waving around the nuclear threat. And a lot of people aren't buying it as usual, and we already knew that. But Putin is carrying out the second full-scale nuclear drills in less than a year. And is Putin serious, or is he not? Is this cap, or is this no cap? And it seems as though a lot of people are saying that he's just saber-rattling as usual. Some people are saying he really is threatening with the nukes. And some people are saying that he seems serious, but not really. And so, Matthew, what are people thinking about that? And what are you thinking about it as well?
All right, so about 65% of the audience said no, Putin is saber-rattling as usual, nothing to worry about, while 16% said yes, Putin is actually threatening the nukes to actually use them, while 14% said, it seems kind of serious, but I'm not 100% on it. And I would say this, the fact that they're carrying out the second full-scale nuclear drill in less than a year, this is in very close proximity to the last drill they carried out. It would make it naturally seem a little bit more serious, like maybe they're doing this more frequently, because they think they might actually fire one pretty soon. But at the same time, though, the fact that Russia might actually fire a nuke, I don't think we're really at that point just yet. Like I've said in the past, the only situation where I could actually see Putin pulling the trigger on that would be if NATO troops actually entered Ukraine, and so far there's no sign of that happening just yet. So I really think this is probably just saber-rattling as usual. It doesn't really seem like an actual imminent threat, so I'm going to say they're probably just wasting more money, and I'm with the 64%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say they're saber-rattling as usual. This is just an attempt to try and make people believe it a little bit more, but beyond that, it's nothing really exceptional to get freaked out about or to think that the world's ending over. It's just nothing that severe. Like, nothing that the Russians really do on a nuclear level is that severe, in my honest opinion. They always are threatening nuclear holocaust or some sort of nuclear reprisal for practically everything at this point, especially since the Russians have pretty much been shown to be combat ineffective on a conventional level. They're certainly not going to be showing anything better in the future, considering that their armed forces are being decreased in ability through the course of this war. So for this reason, they are relying massively on the nuclear deterrent to try and have people fear them for something. Otherwise, there's really nothing to fear the Russians about. But moving on from that little bit of news in Moscow, it is time for us to start moving on down and into some very interesting news inside of the Kursk Oblast. And this is once again bringing us back around to the fun times at sea that we always have, the people that we love to talk about, the folks who've never made it out of their country. People call them the army of the starving. Some say that they're even going to be better than the Russians somehow. I'm not really sure why some people are saying that, and some people are acting like the Ukrainians are truly cooked now that the North Koreans are showing up, because most North Koreans don't even know what the word cooked means, considering they never even have food to cook in the first place. But nevertheless, a lot of people are getting fairly concerned about the North Koreans. And because of this, I feel like it's almost this channel's mission to lay out that, of course, the North Koreans aren't exactly, completely inept. Being hungry is, it counts for something, I guess. But at the same time, it's not like they're Superman and that the Ukrainians are truly cooked at this point. But moving on into this news, we did get to hear that North Korean generals may actually be on the front line soon, even before the actual North Korean forces arrive in the area in number. This is according to information that the South Korean intelligence has been able to find. And just to give you all the direct quote here, high-ranking North Korean generals may be on the front line of Ukraine. Yonhap has quoted South Korean intelligence as saying, according to the agency, the deployment of North Korean troops involved key officers of the FSB who traveled to Pyongyang on October 23rd through the 24th. The intelligence agency also said that North Korean soldiers face difficulties in training due to the language barrier, so they are being separately taught more than 100 military vocabulary words in Russian. So from what we know, the North Koreans are being imported in mass, kind of like, really anything that North Korea is able to export, at least to Russia. It's usually in mass, like with their weaponry and such things. But nevertheless, it even appears that the North Koreans are understanding that their fighting doctrine is antique, ancient, and largely obsolete. And so they're actually handing over these North Korean forces to be trained in some way by the Russian Federation. This is, of course, happening around, I believe it's called Lake Konka, if I'm correct, and it is Lake Konka, in the town of Korol, at least from what we understand at the moment. But still, at the same time, it seems as though they're not going to be trained that much. 100 military vocabulary words is not a lot, and having that limited of a grasp on Russian language just for the North Koreans in general is going to mean that their training is very short, and a lot of these North Korean soldiers are going to start to rely, and the expeditionary force structure as a whole is largely going to be relying on North Korean doctrine primarily for their fighting tactics on the battlefield. We are expecting that this is going to lead them to be highly inefficient and also increase the amount of casualties that they take, because North Korean battle doctrine does not account for electronic warfare, it does not really account for a large deal of air defense for that matter, and it also does not deal with drone warfare and anti-drone countermeasures conducted by friendly forces. It does not do any of that at all, and it's largely completely deficient on every single level, at least on the modern battlefield. Not only that, the combat structure is pretty weak as well. It's unbelievably weak, like insanely weak, and I will tell you all why. Now, of course, it's time for us to get to the fun stuff. It is time for us to get to the Army Techniques Procedures. I love the Army Techniques Procedures. It is like the Bible, pretty much, for really understanding any enemy armed force. Because at the beginning of the war, I want y'all to know, I actually read the ATP that we have on the Russian Federation's armed forces, and also did a lot of additional reading that was based off of that ATP, and that's what led me to be able to accurately predict exactly what the Russian Federation was going to do on the onset of war back in 2022 in Ukraine. And most of those predictions, as per based off of the ATP, were largely correct. And since then, I have put 100% faith and trust into Army Techniques Procedures publications. They are some of the best, at least as far as assessing enemy ground forces is concerned, and this gives us a really good look into what the North Koreans are going to be doing and how bad off they're really going to be. There's no way that they can be better off than the Russians, there's only ways that they can be worse off, and so allow me to explain. This is a North Korean, this is the structure of the Korean People's Army, which is broken up into its multiple branches, but what we want to get down to is the infantry division, or really more so, I believe it's it is an entire division. So let me move on down here, and this is the one that we want to know about. This is the Korean People's Army Infantry Division. This is the one that we understand has been brought into Ukraine at this moment, because the number is matching up precisely to the number that we got beforehand. We were told that around 12,000 to 13,000 North Korean forces were being shipped from North Korea into Russia to fight on their side. That kind of a number estimate falls literally within the exact cookie cutter parameters of a KPA infantry division. So from what we understand, and also I want to put this out there, other divisions have other different sizes and strengths. Let me see if I can show y'all really quickly the force numbers. And let's see here, special operations forces. We don't want to know about the maneuver brigades just yet. We want to know specifically about their armor. So let me see if I can find their armor units. And so let's see, battalion size detachment. We don't want to know about the platoons and squads yet. We don't want to know about the regular forces. Not the terrorist groups. Let's see here. Dang it, man. Okay, so they only give like a very detailed rundown on the infantry division. So I'm guessing that according to the ATP and at least all the information they were able to get out of defectors, most of them came from infantry division. So we don't have any actual numbers so far, at least in the ATP, on at least a specific tank division or any divisional level elements. It appears that most of this is based around... Actually, there is a tank brigade, but there is no tank division. So all of the tank brigade, you could scale that up and get an idea about how many tanks would be in a division. But let's just work with the infantry division for now, since we know that that is the one that is in Ukraine or will be in Ukraine here soon. There are 1,280 personnel in this unit. And I want y'all to envision that. 1,280 personnel. That is pretty freaking big. That's actually really big. To give y'all an idea of how big that is about the amount of Russians that are wounded and killed in about 2 weeks. So this is a pretty big size. Like this is actually about as big as you could get. But nevertheless, for this 12,800 personnel unit, there is no equipment at all. Like literally there's like pieces of equipment and that's it. Just to give you all this perspective, a single division, which is made up of multiple brigades, just I want to put that out there, brigades, only has 31 tanks. And they're all T-55s or T-62s from the 1950s or the early 1960s. Or they may be modified Chonmahos, which are still T-62s, but they have a little bit of extra armor. But nevertheless, for 12,800 personnel, they only have 31 tanks supporting them. Now, we actually do have a direct comparison for this in at least a Ukrainian metric, because we were able to hear that apparently there is a new brigade, the 155th Mechanized Brigade, that is being raised directly out of France at the moment, and we actually did get a pretty good infographic in force. Oh my god, they deleted it! Oh my god! Okay, so, hang on. So, now I gotta tell y'all, at least off of the raw numbers, how it was working. So, in this brigade, they had, in a single brigade, by the way, that was raised in France, 30 Leopard 2A4s to call from. I believe that was from the HQ section, if I remember the graphic correctly. But that's still 30 tanks for a brigade. A division, like we're talking about right here, at least in this number, is probably made up of at least 4 brigades. So for 4 brigades, they have 31 tanks, which means that in each brigade, they have about 8 tanks per brigade. That is 1/3, less than 1/3 of the amount that would be seen in a Ukrainian brigade of similar strength. I mean, hell, honestly, a mechanized brigade is going to be even better equipped than this, because in a mechanized brigade, because this is something that we do not see in a KPA infantry division, is any kind of motorized equipment beyond armor at all. Like, we do not see armored personnel carriers of any variety, and we do not even see any motorized vehicles, like just a supply truck for that matter. They appear to be completely absent from the roster. And so for this matter, a Ukrainian mechanized brigade is just far more advanced and far more capable than your standard Korean People's Army brigade, which has 31 tanks, and everyone else is apparently just legging it. Like, they don't even have a vehicle, they just march everywhere, which means that they're wildly slower than a Ukrainian mechanized brigade counterpart. They aren't even motorized. These are literally foot infantry with light tank support. And it's a horrendous, like, it's a horrendous kind of like a divisional, like, equipment allotment that they have. It's insanely bad. And then the artillery is terrible as well. They have almost no artillery. If you break this down, you actually look at the infantry mortar sections and then the actual heavier support artillery, there's almost none. They have, crazily enough, for 12,800 guys, they only have about 9,400 small arms. So what about the other, like, 3,000 or 4,000 guys in this unit, like, that work in the artillery or something? Like, they don't even have sidearms? Like, from what we know, they apparently don't. Like, the North Koreans are so strapped for equipment, they don't even issue sidearms or just, rifles to your, like, rear line guys. They just don't. So it's only the frontline infantry guys that actually have weapons. Everyone else is told to have prayers. Like, that's it. So we understand that if the KPA is equipped and fielded by the Russians, largely with the same doctrinal training that they have right now, which we haven't even gone into that at this point, which is horrendous. And if they are also fielded with the same kind of equipment that they would have in the KPA, from what we understand, which is also horrendous, this unit is going to perform poorly. Like, it's not even going to perform poorly, it's going to be atrocious. Because another thing that we're also understanding is that if the North Koreans do not have any motorized elements whatsoever, and they are not provided by the Russian Federation, these guys are going to be marching everywhere once they get off the train. So they're going to get off the train in Kursk. Like, let me go show y'all this, because this is mind-blowing to me. They're going to get off the train in Kursk City, and let me make sure to get the exact train station they will exit at. It is somewhere inside of the central area of the city. I have to find it first, and I'd be dipped. They always make... Here we go. Here is the central train station at Kursk. They will be departed from this train station, and if the Russians have no way to transport them to the front lines, the North Koreans literally say, "Unit, fall in." That's, and then they go, what is it, Matthew? Cover, recover, and then something else, and then they're
Forward march.
Yeah, forward march, and then they have to march all the way, I'm guessing, to the closest area, which would be Bolshoi Soldatskoy, which is a 40-mile march, and if they cover that 20 miles per day, it's going to take them just 2 straight days to just get to the front line at that point. And then anything else, like, if they're just left on their own to hold that front line, because the Ukrainians mostly have mechanized brigades in this area, if the Ukrainians break through, which they probably would, considering that the North Koreans have almost no fire support whatsoever for their infantry are going to be outrun immediately, because the Ukrainians actually have mechanized equipment, like vehicles, like in the example of the 155th Mechanized Battalion, they have VABs. So while the North Koreans are moving at about 4 miles an hour, and that's the fastest that they can maneuver because they're literally foot infantry, the Ukrainians are able to move on average about 15 to 20 miles per hour. So they are immediately outmaneuvering the North Koreans at every single turn if they do not have any kind of motorized vehicles. And from what we know, based off of the ATP, they just don't. So largely by everything that we've seen so far, it seems as though the North Koreans are going to be screwed, and we think that the Ukrainians are going to do perfectly fine, to be entirely honest. So
I'll be honest, Enforcer. Like, I think you're overthinking it a little bit. Like, I agree with what you're saying. Like, it makes complete sense. You're reading the manual and everything like that. But I think the catch is the North Koreans aren't coming in to actually fight like a real fighting force. They're being brought in to be sacrifices, like I've said before, to wear down the Ukrainians and force them to use their resources and waste ammunition on these North Korean soldiers, which are really not going to stand a chance because of the various reasons you mentioned, and also for the fact that the Russians are going to put them in bad positions where typically the Russians would get killed in mass. That's probably where the North Koreans are going to be put, and they're going to be used as meat on the front lines. That's the only real purpose they're there, and it's really sick to think that, but I think that's the arrangement between Kim Jong-un and also Putin, is to put them out there, let them be sacrificed, and it's really not about winning the fight, more so as it is about just simply tying up the Ukrainians with their manpower and also resources.
But the thing about that, though, Matthew, is that there are a couple of issues to that assessment, at least in my opinion. One, if Russians are dying in large numbers in anywhere in the Kursk Oblast, that means that it's an area of dangerous sort of condition, really. That means that it could collapse at any point, and the Ukrainians could just simply counterattack and break through, and then they have a problem on their hands that's severe. If they put the North Koreans there, and they are fielded like we're seeing off the manual, it doesn't matter how many of them are there. They could have 13,000 guys there. The Ukrainians can blast a hole through that line, punch through at 10 miles an hour, even at a minimum. And the North Koreans are maneuvering at 4 miles an hour at a minimum. And if they have any armor support, it's so sparse, at least for the size of the division that they have, it's not even going to be present to stop this breakthrough for the most part. So the Ukrainians will break through. They most likely would end up surrounding and encircling a decent amount of these North Korean forces. And given about a few days, if they're able to continue on that sort of an offensive or breakthrough, the North Koreans will most likely surrender because they have no supplies at that point. The condition is completely unrecoverable. They're not able to even break out at that point because they just simply do not possess the equipment nor the speed to be able to punch through the Ukrainian encirclement with enough force to be able to escape. They would have to give up. There's really no other way that they could go. And while it is an idea that they could be eating up manpower, well, not manpower, they could be eating up Ukrainian resources, that is something that's never been tried and true in historical practice, because for the large part, from what we know, in the Gulf War, the Iraqi army, I believe at the time, was the third largest in the world, with about 1.2 to 1.3 million service members in its armed forces in 1990 to 1991. And when we went to war against them, and keep in mind, the size of the Iraqi army at that time was literally identical to the Korean People's Army of today. And not only that, they were actually better equipped, from what we understand, than the Korean People's Army is currently. The United States just obliterated them with superior firepower, outmaneuvered most of the ground forces, hardly actually engaging them in armed combat, and ended up encircling them and forcing hundreds of thousands to surrender pretty much within weeks of the ground invasion actually beginning. It's not necessarily about how many bodies are out there, because while it's true you can put more bodies on the field than the enemy has bullets, if you surround these guys and they start to starve to death, they are going to give up. And that's something that I think might actually be a serious risk if the Russians move this entire division to hold a specific sector of the front line in Kursk and the Ukrainians break through. They could just see that the entire North Korean division gets surrounded, encircled, and then is forced to surrender because they're simply starving to death, and there's not really much that they can do that's within their control to change the situation.
That's probably going to be true as well. Like, they probably will be starving. The Russians probably won't feed them the way they're supposed to be feeding the North Koreans because they really don't care. They know that they're there to basically be sacrifices. So I think you're right. They probably will be encircled by the Ukrainians because they're not going to be able to put up that much of a fight. But the only catch is the North Koreans are going to know ahead of time that if they try to surrender, the Russians are going to mow them down to show the other North Koreans, like, you're going to get eliminated by us if you're not going to fight to the death. It doesn't matter if you're starving. It doesn't matter if you're suffering. You better go out there and fight, or otherwise the Russians are going to be the ones to mow you down. So which way do you want to go? Do you want to die at the hands of the Ukrainians or at their hands, the Russian hands? I think that's going to be the dilemma the North Koreans are going to be in.
Maybe so, but nevertheless, I just don't think it's going to go well for these North Koreans at all. Just based off of everything that we know about them, just based off everything we know about them, I don't even think they would go well fighting Uganda. Like, to be entirely honest, I think they would get their asses beat by the Ugandans, and that's not saying much because the Ugandans don't even have a military for the most part. I think it's like 30,000 strong or something like that. Like, I still think they would get a run for their money from those guys because they're probably better equipped than the North Koreans at this point. But nevertheless, we do have a very interesting question to ask a lot of people. Do y'all think that the Russians are going to be getting a little bit smaller here in the near future, considering that this North Korean division is being moved into the area, or will be moved into the area soon, and it appears that the outlook is very grim for their existence on a front line in modern fighting conditions like we're seeing right now? A lot of people are thinking that the Ukrainians, like myself, might actually end up breaking through if these North Koreans are left unsupported by the Russians, and this might actually end up making Russia a little bit smaller. Maybe a lot smaller. Maybe it'll look a little bit like the Duchy of Muscovy back in the 1500s, or really the 15th century. And if that's what y'all are thinking, then I would encourage y'all to click on the link below to officialenforcerstore.com and get your Make Russia Small Again t-shirt. Hey!
Look at that, merch time.
We have made this thing with great love and care. It's actually based heavily off of President Zelensky's Make Russia Small Again shirt that was shown on a presidential address a couple of days ago, and really everyone took a liking to. We really took a liking to it, and so we decided to make our own Enforcer version, which is pretty cool. It's actually pretty dope. at least in my opinion, and please forgive the stupid euphemisms, but nevertheless, this is an amazing shirt. And many of y'all know the spiel. Made of U.S. cotton, soft U.S. cotton, long-lasting U.S. cotton. It is 100% made of the stuff from Gildan, and it is a premium, comfortable fit. Look at this guy right here. He looks happy, right? I bet you would look happy in a Make Russia Small Again shirt. Not only that, it is just incredible looking, and on top of that, 10% of all the profits that we make off of the sales of this shirt, Make Russia Small Again, will be donated to United 24 to help them out with continuing the fight against the Russian Federation, and of course, hopefully, bringing all that occupied territory home. Not only that, it comes in a wide variety of colors. At only $25 a t-shirt, we have tried to knock this down to be about as affordable as it can be, considering all of the production costs and everything in the background. But it comes in a wide variety of colors. You want it in black? You can have it in the traditional Zelensky fit. And they said drip or drown, and my boy, he's swimming. We also have navy blue, which also looks pretty good, to be honest, in my opinion. We also have military green, which, to be quite honest, it doesn't look that bad. We also have charcoal, just in case you wanted that Frontline soot kind of a look, which also is kind of drippy. We also have sand. Anyone like sand? I know Anakin Skywalker doesn't like sand, but if you're one of the folks who lived in the sandbox, maybe you would like sand. Who knows? Maybe it's for you. We also have coral silk, which is a very interesting color. It really jives with that dark red in the Make Russia Small Again. And not only that, we have tropical blue for those people who may be living under the sea. It also comes in a wide variety of colors. We have small to 5XL. It's literally one size for every single person. We ship to multiple countries as well. We ship to Austria, Australia, Belgium, Canada, the Czech Republic, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Hong Kong, Ireland, Israel, Italy, Japan, Malaysia, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Singapore, South Korea, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, the United Arab Emirates, the United Kingdom, and the United States of America. And so if you're in any one of those countries, you can get one of these shirts. Just make sure, if you want to get one of these, to click on the link in the description down below. We actually have the link to the store down there, and if y'all do want to get one, y'all can click on that right there, go straight into the official Enforcer store that y'all see right here, and go ahead and get yourself one, or get two, or maybe even get three. Who knows? It's up to you how many you get, but we've already gotten a couple, to be entirely honest. I mean, like, I think Matthew's gotten one. I've gotten one as well. I'm getting the one in black, just to let y'all know, because it's like the traditional color that's on the speech from the Zelensky, so pretty neat overall.
And oh man, I see the real hot dog man. The live chat said worst sales pitch ever. I'm buying 5.
Aw, man, I can't believe it. Aw, man. But hopefully, y'all do get some of these. Of course, you don't have to, but it would be neat. It does support the channel. 10% of the profits do go to help out United 24. It is a great thing all around. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. I know that was a merciless plug, but nevertheless, we had to do it because who else was going to do it if we didn't? We had to be the ones to step forward and get her done. But nevertheless, before we move on into our next bit of news, I do understand, Matthew, that we have something very neat to show all of y'all in the audience as well before we get on into the rest of what we have. It's not merch. It's actually something pretty cool. Many of y'all will know that on Sunday, we told all of y'all that due to the amazing efforts of BC Skyman and Yuri, both members of the LSA, we were able to conduct an amazing operation that was coordinated by BC Skyman, and the actual delivery to Ukraine was conducted by Yuri, where they sent over Lucamed, I believe it's self-absorbing bandages, to Ukraine. We, of course, as the LSA, provided a large number of them, and they were sent over as Yuri went to Ukraine along with the flag of the Lee Spring Army. We had a load of pictures to show last time, but this time we have something even cooler. It's actually a video made by one of the Ukrainian soldiers in the unit that received the bandages. And so, really quickly, here is the clip.
Thank you so much to LSA. We want to express our heartfelt thanks for all the support that you have provided for us. We are incredibly grateful for your help and dedication.
Hey! It's
Hey,
pretty
very
cool.
cool. I love to see it, man. That is so cool. Like, see the soldiers out there holding the flag like that, and also getting the bandages. That is very cool. Also, a huge shout out to BC Skyman and Yuri, by the way, for making that happen.
It is incredibly cool. And I gotta say, it is a beautiful thing to see that the flag of the LSA has actually made it onto Ukrainian soil. We're actually getting to see that the LSA, for the first time ever, has directly helped Ukraine. Instead of going through a third-party nonprofit, which we always do, we actually got to send over the support directly through amazing members of the LSA. And of course, since BC Skyman is here tonight, and I do see him in the chat, I hope that everyone gives a massive thanks to BC Skyman and Yuri. We went into this in great detail on Sunday, talking about all of the amazing things that have been done with BC Skyman and Yuri. But nevertheless, I hope that many people give him a huge round of applause and a massive thanks for doing this tonight, because while it was an LSA operation and the flag of the LSA and a lot of the imagery of it went over to Ukraine, this would have never been possible if it wasn't for the amazing efforts of BC Skyman and Yuri together. And so a massive thanks to them both once again. I hope many people give them a huge thanks in the live chat as well. But still, it was an absolutely incredible thing to see, and I did want to show you all that video so that way you can see the physical proof in video form that it made it to Ukraine. And so with that, we are now about to be moving on into our next bits of news, talking about what's going on in the Kursk Oblast, what the dog doing, what's Romania doing, and also all the frontline actions that were happening over the course of today. But Matthew, I understand that we have a couple of questions from the chat. And what do we have, Matthew?
All right, so our first super chat question of the night is going to go to a channel legend. It is Purple Gerbil, who throws in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Purple Gerbil, as always, for the generous support. And he said, LSA, smash the like button, take a live chat in LSA forever.
And thank you so much for the support. And please do smack the like button if y'all would like to. It would be wonderful to see a lot of people smacking the like button tonight. And also, thank you so much for the support, Purple Gerbil, and helping this channel to keep on running. You're helping this thing to be ad-free and sponsor-free, which it has been for quite some time at this point. And I also want to give you all a big success piece of news as well, since we're kind of on this tonight, talking about some channel side stuff, like with BC Skyman's amazing efforts, and also the new merch that's been dropped. By the way, the link in the description below for that. I do want to make sure to bring up something else that is very good as well. Many of y'all will know that I brought up on stream a little while ago that our brand new Armed Forces medley that's in the intro ended up getting content ID'd by YouTube, and according to YouTube, another group was claiming that that track was theirs. I disputed that, and literally just yesterday, which is why I wasn't able to tell you all about this, it was actually lifted. Like, the content ID has been lifted off of that. The other side rescinded the claim, and so we are able to once again run the Armed Forces medley without the fear that YouTube's going to say that someone else owns it, when we are literally the only people who own it. Like, you know, that's like not even a debate. But nevertheless, that was very good news that I was able to get yesterday, so all of y'all can know and listen with safe ears, knowing that that is copyright free and that no attorney will be giving you a cease and desist for listening to that amazing LSA original track. So that's very good to know. I was very happy to hear that, because I was going to be very pissed, royally pissed, especially with the amount of expense that we went through just to get that rough draft. If the other side was going to be like, no, that's ours, I was going to be like, hell it is. I was like, y'all have a real band playing yours, and it's literally just like a brass quartet, and ours is like a full orchestra, and not only that, it's a rendition, like a draft of the final product. Also, by the way, we do also have a really rough window for when the final product will be put onto the show. We originally planned that we were only going to play the rough draft once, and then we were going to wait for the final draft to come through, but we will have the final fully orchestrated draft available after November 14th. It will be on the streams, and I'm going to be figuring out what else we can do with it, because if we can, we are going to see about possibly selling digital copies of it, not to really make any profit, just to really break even on it, because if we can break even on the production of this thing, considering it wasn't really cheap, it's about $4,500 to produce this Armed Forces medley from beginning to end from scratch. If we can break even on that, we probably will be able to go forward and start making a whole bunch of other songs, and the next one on the itinerary largely is going to be the anthem of the LSA. We're going to have it reorchestrated, considering that this one's an AI cover that we currently use that was made in Suno AI. We're going to have it completely redone from the ground up by the same composer, and we're going to have an actual LSA anthem made, and it's going to sound a lot better than this one does. Like, nothing, I'm not dogging on the LSA anthem. I personally love it, and I think it's like one of my favorite songs, not biased or anything, like I really am, but it is one of our greatest songs, and it's the only song song of the LSA, but we do want to have it orchestrated and make it sound a lot more full and a lot more patriotic, at least towards like the core elements of the LSA. That would be really cool in my opinion. We may even add additional stanzas, like an additional second or third stanza to it, just to make the anthem a little bit longer. And also, considering that the anthem of the LSA may only end up being about 2 minutes long, we also will probably be trying to get our own orchestrated version of the Star Spangled Banner as well, so that way we can include that in the stream intro, since that might end up being the intro anthem that we start playing every single night, considering that we're covering so many topics of news from around the world, and it's really hard to encapsulate all of that by playing the Ukrainian anthem or the South Korean anthem or the Taiwanese anthem or the Israeli anthem. We might end up just playing the United States anthem, the Star Spangled Banner, to kind of start off every single night, kind of like we've done with the Ukrainian anthem for years. But still, we are really excited to be able to knock this thing out and have it done, and it's really crazy to think it's finally getting on into its final elements, because I've been working on this since about mid to early August, and it's been a bit of a process actually getting this through the whole way. And another cool thing that I have to tell y'all, this is like the last cool thing before we actually move on into some more questions here, or actually a live chat question, is that I'm actually going to have this video filmed. So we are actually going to have a video of the orchestra playing the rendition of the Armed Forces medley. So if y'all ever wanted to know what that looked like, we're probably going to play that in the intro at least once, and then go back to our normal intro format that we've had for a very long time at this point. But with that, I hope that does address that incredibly well. I hope that like covers every single base I have on that at the moment, because I'm so excited about all the projects we have going on behind the scenes, and I cannot wait for them to be done and knocked out completely. But we will make sure to take a live chat in honor of Purple Gerbil. And of course, long live the Lee Spring Army, and the Lee Spring Army will never die. And so what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so the live chat question here in honor of Purple Gerbil is going to go to Lord Lathos LSA, who says, what are the chances of a direct South Korean or even a NATO involvement in Ukraine? And what about individual countries?
A NATO involvement in Ukraine is going to probably be a little unlikely. NATO is structured entirely as a defensive organization, and so for NATO to act preemptively or offensively is pretty much out of the question due to the structure of the NATO charter. This means that NATO would have to be attacked in some sort of a larger way for NATO to get involved in the Ukraine war, and even then, due to the context of the charter, that might end up taking a little bit of diplomatic maneuvering to be able to get that done, meaning that it wouldn't even be instantaneous if the Russians attacked us. We would probably have to try and create some sort of an alliance with NATO and the Ukrainians, which may take maybe a week or two, at least if we're talking about a historical diplomatic timeline, and then we would be able to get Ukraine in on the side of the Allies, and NATO forces would be able to move in and help support them. As far as South Korea getting involved, however, that's far easier. The South Koreans are not a part of any kind of an alliance, at least in terms of what they can do with Ukraine, that limits their abilities to act offensively or defensively, and so for this matter, South Korea can quite literally do whatever it wishes to do in Ukraine, and there's nothing legally binding that would stop them in any sort of an alliance. The only thing that would slow them down or stop them is U.S. pressure telling them not to do anything that would be too severe in America's mind, which really could be anything at this point. But nevertheless, the South Koreans may press forward, considering that this in their minds isn't really trying to fight against Russia. This is more so trying to fight against North Korea, which is really their number one antagonist in the world currently on the diplomatic stage. And so for this reason, we could see that the South Koreans could start to pump a larger amount of equipment into Ukraine through Hyundai Rotem, which is already starting to manufacture K2 Panthers and R600 Rhinos for the Polish government, and they could start to ramp up production and facilities subsidized by the South Korean government to start funneling a lot of those weapons and equipment into Ukraine. We could also see, at least at the onset, that South Korean special forces are moved in to operate in more covert operations against the Russian Federation and North Korea, and then later on we could maybe see a South Korean expeditionary force or an expeditionary unit that would be sent into Ukraine to fight on Ukraine's behalf or help them out with training or logistics, something along those lines. It's far easier for South Korea to get involved, quite honestly, than it would be for NATO. Now, one-on-ones can happen, like, for example, Poland or France could directly get involved in military intervention in support of Ukraine, but the chances of all of NATO getting involved is quite literally impossible based off of the structure of the NATO charter. And that's something that I found very interesting as well, is that NATO actually made a statement saying that they were backing Israel 100%, and anyone that did anything to Israel would get the ire of NATO. That is a very weird statement to make, considering that Israel is actually out of the geographical parameters that NATO can actually defend. Israel isn't a NATO member, and if NATO was to do anything in support of Israel offensively against the Islamic Republic of Iran, that would actually be a preemptive or offensive action, which is completely out of the confines of the NATO charter. But with that, I hope that does address that well, at least the best I can, and a huge thanks to Purple Gerbil for supporting this channel and sponsoring that live chat. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and jumping into our next super chat here, this one's going to go to none other than BC Skyman, the one responsible for helping organize that really nice bandage run to Ukraine with Yuri, and he put in a $50 donation. And huge shout out to you, BC, once again for that massive support. Also, thank you very much for sending us the videos and the pictures of the deliveries taking place in Ukraine, because the audience loved to see that. Also, we love to see it as well. I was very pleased to see the bandages actually getting delivered, along with the flag too. That was really cool. And also, thank you very much for that support once again. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I have to thank you so much as well for that incredible support, BC Skyman, and helping this channel to keep on running. And I also have to thank you for being one of the main people involved in getting that operation done to send all of those Leukomed bandages to Ukraine. So many people were absolutely blown away with that being done. A lot of people really didn't know that it was being done, except for the people who were involved in sending the bandages and us and you. But nevertheless, it has been a huge success. I can't even say how big of a success it's been, and I've been just absolutely like floored entirely that we've been able to see so many people come together to support that the support made it, and a lot of people have been just absolutely astonished by it. I've got to thank you so much though, BC Skyman, because a lot of people are kind of like, yay, LSA, and we're so happy to see that, Enforcers. I've seen that a couple of times, but I want everyone to know that Matthew and me only helped BC Skyman get more bandages. We sent more bandages to BC Skyman, but we were not the people who were responsible for making that possible. It was BC Skyman himself that made this possible, along with Yuri. Like, all of the credit, all of the thanks, it really needs to go to BC Skyman and Yuri, and everyone else who delivered bandages as well to BC Skyman. If it wasn't for that, that wouldn't have been possible. We would have gotten, in between Matthew and me collectively, we would have gotten about 200 bandages over there. In total, 2,000 bandages were sent by the LSA, meaning that Matthew and me only accounted for 10% of all of the bandages. Y'all accounted for the other 90% of the bandages that were sent. Y'all were the ones who made that possible. BC Scammon and Yuri were the ones who truly made this thing a reality by coordinating this plan in the first place and executing it in the name of the LSA. That is an amazing thing, and I got to thank you so much once again on behalf of the entirety of the LSA, BC Scammon, for making this entire operation possible with delivering the bandages along with Yuri. I wish that we had some kind of a medal or award that we could give you for that, BC Scammon, because you're the first person in the LSA to officially do this. But I have not thought of anything yet. Like, in my mind, I was thinking, you know, maybe something along the lines of like the Order of the Oak. Like, we could give you like something like that, come up with something cool. You know, it's kind of like, you know, an oak has a whole bunch of roots, and you were able to bring together the roots to make a strong core and to actually create a tangible object, kind of like an oak tree. Maybe I thought that would be kind of like a cool one. Like, I was floating that around in my head. We haven't like commissioned a medal or anything like that yet. Like, I think it would be cool though if we did, and if we sent you that. But still, I think that is huge of you. And if we did have some kind of a medal or an award to give you at this point, we would, because that was absolutely amazing. And I really do think that that is what the LSA should be about at the end of the day, is people taking the initiative to step forward and do what they think is right in the world that's in support of Western and American interests. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the incredible support, pieces. I mean, you didn't throw in a comment, but that super chat was worth 1,000 words right there. And so a big thanks to you once again. And with that, we are on to the last question of this segment, and then we're going to be moving on into the rest of this news. And so what do we got, Matthew?
All right, and our last one of the segment is from Dustin Mayo, who's been on the channel for a very long time, but he has decided to put in his first ever super chat on the channel. And also, thank you very much, Dustin, for following through the super chat process. I know the first time you do that, it's a little bit complicated, so thank you for bearing with us on that. And also, he threw in a massive $200 donation, and we appreciate that very much, Dustin.
Dang.
He says, LSA Alaska chapter.
And hey, LSA Alaska. You know, crazily enough, Dustin, we have been seeing so many things on, I think it's the Smithsonian channel, if I'm right, Matthew, about Alaska.
Yes, we have. We've been watching, I think it's Ice Airport, Alaska or something like that. They keep the runways like cleared of snow and ice and stuff like that. It's really harsh.
You know, Matthew, I do have to say this, Matthew. I found out that Alaska's main export is actually coffee made of snow because they have a lot of it. I mean, it's just like always falling, and it's so easy to make coffee made of snow up there. But beyond that, I do have to say a big shout out to all of the LSA members up in the Final Frontier in Alaska. What a cool place. Like, we've had so many people through time come onto this channel and tell us that they're from Alaska. SYI Tiger is probably one of the most interesting people that we've heard of from Alaska, because his entire job just is about going around to remote towns inside of Alaska's frontier and making sure that the lights stay on there, which is a really crazy cool kind of a job in itself. But nevertheless, Dustin, I gotta thank you so much for being a part of the LSA Alaska unit. Maybe the Final Frontier unit's the best way to call it, because it is such an interesting place. It is such a harsh but also beautiful place as well, as far as the nature of it's concerned. And I'm interested, Dustin, what part of Alaska are you from? Because usually most people are from Anchorage or Fairbanks or Juneau. And I would like to know, where are you from? I knew someone actually who was from Skagway. Well, wasn't from Skagway, but they would like do tourist stuff in the Skagway for a little bit as like a seasonal thing. But man, dude, Skagway is brutal. They told me there was nothing to do up there in Skagway, like at all. Like it was just up there in the middle of nowhere. And also another cool thing is that they also have the Yukon Railway, which you can see right here. It's a little narrow gauge railway. It's neat. It's cool. And they have a whole bunch of vintage rolling stock. Like, what cooler could you ask for? This is just neat.
Nothing like some vintage rolling stock. And also, by the way, folks, I'm lagging out like crazy once again. We have a fix coming for this, by the way. Another fix I'm going to try. Hopefully that'll fix it, because I couldn't hear a word you just said just then. It all sped up like 100 miles an hour, and then I finally heard it.
Oh, because, dude, I sat there and gave like a 5 or 7 second silence thing. You're going to be like, oh, wow, that's really cool. And then I didn't hear you, and I was just like, well, moving on from that, they do have this railway. And I was like, but anyways, still, it is pretty cool. That's pretty much like the whole point of talking about this thing. Skagway is kind of neat, at least in its own sense. And also, let me see if I can find here where, let's see, I'm not seeing that Dustin has said where he is in Alaska yet. But if you hear this at some point, please let me know where you are from in Alaska, because I would like to check it out personally, because I would like to see Alaska one day. It's just that, at least like in my mind mentally, it's like so far away because it's not a part of the lower 48. And so it always makes me feel like Hawaii and Alaska are like two truly like completely alien places from the rest of the United States. But still, I hope that does address that the best I can, and I thank you so much once again for that amazing, massive support, Dustin Mayo, all the way from the Alaskan division of the Lee Spring Army. And so with that, I hope that does address that incredibly well, at least in my opinion. And with that, we are going, but well, actually, before we move on into the rest of the news, we do have one question to ask y'all, and it's a big one. Ukraine has announced a mobilization of 160,000 troops into the army, and a lot of people are wondering, is this going to be the last wave? And it seems as though a decent amount of people are thinking that Ukraine's running low on manpower, and another group of people are thinking that Ukraine can call up even more if needed. And Matthew, what are people thinking about this, and what are you thinking about this as well?
All right, so on this issue of manpower and the new mobilization inside of Ukraine, it looks like 41% of the audience said yes, Ukraine is running low on manpower, and this could be the last wave of Ukraine mobilization, while 33% said no, Ukraine can call up more if needed, and 14% said possibly so, but I need some more information. And on this one, I think the crux of this issue is going to lie in the conscription age that is currently in law inside of Ukraine. I believe the conscription age is currently 25, is the lowest age, and that was just lowered in April of 2024. So April of this year is when that was lowered to 25. So unfortunately, I understand why Ukraine does not want to lower the age any lower than that, because you start getting into like, you know, people and young men that are really honestly kind of like kids. They're really not mature yet. And to send them off to fight, that's obviously not very good, and that's a very unfortunate situation. But in Ukraine's circumstance, with them getting a little bit desperate for manpower, it is going to be necessary to lower that conscription age on down to, I would assume, maybe about 18 or so, which is just the sad reality of war. But they're going to have to lower that on down to get more men to be able to conscript, to be able to keep the war going and keep the fight going, to keep Russia out of the country. So if they're able to lower the age down, then I would say that they probably can call up more if needed. But until that happens, this mobilization of 160,000 could be one of the last big hurrahs of mobilization that Ukraine has. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say, in my opinion, I would have to be with the 33% that say they can call up more. While Ukraine is running low on manpower, that's based off of the current metric with their minimum conscription age being 25 years old. There is a greater deal of manpower to be had if the conscription age is lowered to 23, 21, or 18 years old, which is what it currently is here in the United States if selective service was ever to become an activated thing. And so for that reason, I do believe that they have far more manpower to call on. Kind of like other things, if the Ukrainians do start to run out of manpower, they are going to lower the conscription age. And a lot of people say, kind of like Matthew says, you know, those people are a little too young, but the thing is that most of the time, historically, most people involved in wars are somewhere in between 18 to 21. That's usually the larger number of soldiers that are involved. Modern movies have actually given a lot of people in America the kind of mindset that usually your average lower enlisted are far older, usually in their mid-30s to early 40s, because most actors that are casted in those roles actually are in their mid-30s to early 40s. However, if you actually look at anything in real life, for example, the war in Vietnam, the war in Korea, World War II, World War I for that matter, the Civil War, really any war in America's history, the average age of most enlisted soldiers was somewhere around 18 to 21 years old, and really doesn't variate off of that too much. But still, in my opinion, I would have to say, I don't think they're running out of manpower anytime soon, because they will lower the conscription age if they need to. Also, really quickly, we did get to hear that Dustin Mayo is from southeastern Alaska, which is the area around Juneau, and also near the town of Hoonah. And who doesn't like some Hoonah? You know what I mean? Like, look at that, man. It's just called Hoonah.
Hoonah. That's kind of weird. What is it? Where is this in Alaska? Like, zoom back out for a second.
This is near the amazing and famous Chickagoff Island.
Interesting. I've never heard of that. So it's not famous, at least to me. But if I let's see. Let me see. Zoom out some more real quick. Okay, now I know where this is. This is down toward the bottom part here. So very interesting. I thought it was up higher, but interesting.
It is interesting. It's interesting indeed. And you know what's crazy? This is the capital of Alaska, Juneau. Like, you would think it'd be Anchorage, but it's actually this tiny little town right here in the middle of, like, nowhere, honestly. Like, there's nothing really around it that much. Like, there's...
yes, I see you know your Juneau well.
Dude, when your geography teacher asks you what the state capital of Alaska is, you say it's Juneau. Oh, yes, I see you know your Juneau well. Good one. And you, sir, are you ready to receive your terrible grade? Or something like that, where it's like another kid. How dare you, sir? Get your hands off my hall pass. Oh, or something like that. But beyond that, you know something that is cool? The Alaskan state capitol. Have you ever seen it, Matthew?
I am not.
It's an office building.
I'll be honest with you, that's a little underwhelming.
It is. But they do have a polar bear
nice.
painting. Like, that is pretty cool.
Yeah, I like the polar bear. Also, this is a pretty nice room as well. Like, the outside was sort of unassuming, but the interior looks pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad interior, but the thing is that it really is underwhelming for a state capitol building. You know, usually they have, like, domes, like, you know, or something, something aesthetic about them. And, you know, something interesting, though, one thing I will say, this is kind of a bit of a hot take, actually, but let me take you out to the city of Atlanta. And let me go show y'all probably one of the most lower rated kind of capitals, in my opinion, like as far as aesthetic, the Georgia State Capitol, or as it's now called, the Georgia Capitol Museum. Actually, it is the Georgia State Capitol. Let me go get you all the pictures of that. The gold dome, I just think, is hideous. Like, I think it's like one of the dumbest looking, like, state capitals for that reason. Like, I just think gold on a dome looks horrendous. Like, I don't know about y'all. I just don't like it.
I like it. I thought it was really nice.
What? The inside's nice, but I don't like that dome. Like, I think the dome's kind of whack. Like, it's just not something I appreciate that much. And I'm knowing I'm gonna get some heat for this one because usually a lot of people are like, "Oh man, the capital of Georgia, it's a really cool building." I don't know. Like, the gold just does not jive with me. It's just it's too blingy. Like, for me, for like a state capitol building, it's like, where did our tax money go? And you look up at the dome and you just go, "Oh yeah, all right." It's like I just don't like it. You know, it just doesn't have like that republic style to it. You know, let me think. The New Republic style is, I think, the architectural style I'm wanting to mention there, if I remember it by name. It just doesn't really have that much. Not that I'm a fan of Alabama's state capitol, because it looks like it's made out of Adobe, which I just think is terrible. Like, let me show you that. Like, this dome, I don't know what the hell they were thinking with this. They were like, how in the world can we mix an Adobe hut with an umbrella? And they were like, yes, we'll make this dome. And it's like ugly as hell. Like, I think that the Alabama's state capitol's dome is pretty bad. The building also isn't that nice on the interior as well. Like, tell me that looks good. It doesn't.
Yeah, it does not look good. It really does not. I think we've been in there before too, haven't we?
Yeah, we went in there on a tour, like, back in elementary school, but it's not an impressive Capitol building by any means. And I'm trying to see if I can get y'all another picture of
That's right. They were really sensitive about touching the walls in here or something like that. They said, "Don't touch the wall. Don't touch the wall.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
gonna get
dude.
oils from your hands on the wall and ruin the paint." It's like, what? It's like, is the wall really that sensitive to like somebody accidentally like brushing up against it?
Yeah, I was like, what the hell? And then they also, dude, they were so freaking proud of the staircase. They were like, oh my god, it's a supported staircase. There's none like this in the world. And I was like, I've seen like 5 of these things before I came here, and I'm in 4th grade. I was like, what the hell are y'all talking about? I was like, this isn't that impressive. I was like, this is dumb. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Alabama state capitol, but one capitol I am a fan of, and this one is going to be interesting to some folks, is the state capitol of Virginia in Richmond. It's actually a pretty cool building. So let me go see if I can grab it really quickly. There we go. There it is. I was right on top of it. This one is pretty cool to me because it really does have like a New Republic kind of a style to it. It looks a lot like the Supreme Court building, to be entirely honest, or Robert E. Lee's mansion at Arlington Cemetery, which I just think is a very interesting kind of a look. It's like this neoclassical or, you know, New Republic style look, and it really takes it and does something pretty interesting with it. And also the interior is really good looking too. Like, I think it's great. Like, look at that, man. Like, that is a great interior to a building right there. You just can't deny that.
Yeah, that is pretty nice. I like the lighting in it too. Also, that dome. I like the whole thing. It's really actually pretty nice.
Yeah.
The checker floor, I'm not really a big fan of that, but I can overlook it.
Yeah, but like the federal capitol has that in it too. I'm like, why in the world did they think that was a good look back then? They were like, oh yes, pawn moves to E3. It's like, no, it's like make the floor like monochrome, like, well, not monochrome, but like a one single unified color instead of this checkered
Marble or something.
Yeah. It's not good. It's bad. They need to do something
Looks like a
about
barber shop.
that. Yeah, dude, they need like the little red and white striped like little thing over there. But still, I mean, it's not.
Floyd the barber, two chair.
You know, I actually thought, Matthew, for a quick second that this was actually the mace for the House of Commons in the UK. Apparently, it is the mace for the House of Delegates for Virginia. So that's interesting. They actually had one of their own. But beyond that, I think this is a really good capital. And of course, what that looks like. And then there's one more state capital that also is pretty cool, in my opinion, which is the Utah state capital in Salt Lake City. This one is actually pretty cool too. Let me see if I can go get it. Here we go. Because theirs is huge. I mean, it's actually, I think, about as big as the U.S. Capitol building without the wings. Like, I think it's actually a little bit bigger. One thing I don't like, though, is, like, the really modern-looking windows on this thing that are just a little too big and a little too many. Like, that's the one thing I don't like about it. But beyond that, I like the general shape and size of the building along with the dome. The dome's also this kind of, like, a copper dome that apparently has been patinaed over time into, like, this blackish blue color, which also looks really good. So I like this one. The interior is pretty good as well. So generally, I mean, this one is not bad at all. This one's really drippy, and I personally like that one a great deal as well.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. And also, we're lagging out like crazy, by the way. I hope everybody on stream can hear us.
I'm hoping so, because YouTube is not saying anything about us lagging. It looks like OBS says we're fine. But beyond that, still, an incredibly cool capital, interesting state as well, like with the history it has and everything. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that incredibly well. Speaking of, Alaska, the state of Alaska, Juneau, and the state capital of Alaska and all that stuff. Also, Michael McMahon said, look at the Texas Capitol. I know I have to look at this. Matthew will massacre me if I don't look at it. And I believe that the state capital of Texas is in Dallas, which is named after, Sam Houston is the first president of the Republic of Texas, so I think that's why Houston's called Houston. But nevertheless, I think the state capital is in Dallas. And I'm not entirely sure because for some reason I'm forgetting Texas geography. But Matthew, make it make sense. Is this the state capital?
Let's see here. Like, you're looking for it in the geography of it?
Yes, is the state capital.
Oh, man,
it's
just
Austin.
type it in.
Oh, my
just
Lord.
type it in.
I have to know, Matthew. We can't type it in. I have to just know. But it's apparently Austin, so let me go find Austin. There we go. There's Austin. I'm so sorry, everyone. Everyone said Austin. I got flamed. It's fair, though. But anyways, here is the Texas state capital.
I'm going to go down here for an Elon. Look, an Elon.
Interesting. This actually, like, I've seen this one before. Never looked at it that much. The Capitol Dome looks, it has a bit of inspiration from the one in Washington, D.C., the reconstruction made during the 1850s and 60s. The bottom of it, though, looks interesting. It looks good, though. I like the dome's interior, the gondola, or whatever. Oh, my Lord, I'm forgetting all the terminology. I like it, though. I like the internals of the dome. This was apparently during Christmas in one of the houses, either for their Senate or their state legislator, really their state legislator at large. But the building is interesting. I would say, if I had to give this a rating, it's probably a 7 out of 10. For some reason, like, the New Republic style and then, like, the kind of, like, Spanish mission style that they went for, it's good, but I don't really know if it jives incredibly well together. And also the windows, kind of like on the Utah state capitol, are just a little too large and a little too many of them. Like, I get that they're going for light, like they want a lot of natural light in there, I guess, but at the same time, the general shape of the windows on the Utah state capitol and this one, I just think that they get a little too big for, like, the size of the building and everything, at least in my opinion. But still, not bad. I think it's actually a pretty good capitol. What do you think of it, Matthew? What's your take?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And so with that, I'm assuming that Matthew could not hear most of what I said. That sounded like a response where I was probably lagging out that whole time. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that incredibly well.
Oh my God.
Huh?
Man, I'm lagging out so bad I can't hear a word you're saying. But anyways, you can go ahead.
Oh, okay. Also, Cody Wilson said, someone didn't do well in geography. I actually did insanely well in geography, but when I'm having to recall some stuff on stream, I just, like, completely forget it. So, like, with the state capital of Texas, I'm like, oh my God, what is it? Because I could tell you, like, the state capital of every single state in the United States, but for some reason, whenever I have to recall stuff in my head, like, on the spot on stream sometimes, it just doesn't come through. And then other things I'll just be able to remember, like, on the spot, like, instantly. So with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we are moving on into the rest of the news for the night. Moving on into the Kursk Oblast within the area of Zelenogorsk, we did get to see that a Ukrainian drone, or some sort of a drone, exploded inside of the city and fell.
Так там еще где-то осколки полетели. Мы на скамейке сидим, это летит просто огромная штука сюда. Пиздец. Ну тут естественно. Пошлите в подъезд.
And that's the end of that clip. But moving on to our next one. We can also see the debris here.
Это осколок машины. Ебало машину. Человеку, глянь. Это дрон лежит под нами. Это пиздец.
And that's the end of the clip, but still, very interesting to see, and an interesting sort of a thing. We don't really know what happened with it, but still, interesting. Moving on from that and into our location unknowns, we did get to see a Ukrainian Bodana at work in its natural habitat. Take a look at these pictures and tell me it doesn't go hard. Folks, you gotta admit, the Bodana is something else. It's a work of nature. But moving on from that, and that little picture right there, and moving on into our next bit, because we do know that the 155th Battalion's infographics are gone, we did get to see the Ukrainian SOF kidding around.
Broadcast. Be carefully. Please, be carefully. Carefully.
Bro, and you be carefully. Thank you. Goodbye. I go to work in the...
Go to the очко дьявола.
And that's the end of that clip. But still, nice to see them having a little bit of fun. But moving on from that, also really quickly, folks, I do want to make sure that the call's working fine for the rest of the stream. So give me just a second, folks, and hopefully I can fix this with some magic. So hang tight, everyone, and I will be back.
בחרמון נמס השלג בחצי הלילה, בחרמון זורם לו פלג בחצי הליל, אבא שם על הר השלג בחצי הלילה, שר שירים על נס בפלא עם כל ישראל, האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל, האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. בבקעת תמר פורח בחצי הלילה, הירח שם זורח בחצי הליל, שם אחי ודאי שומע בחצי הלילה את שירנו השמח כאן בישראל, האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל, האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. במדבר הולך החושך בחצי הלילה, שקט הס בארץ גושן בחצי הליל, לדודי.
Hello, everyone.
All right, we're back, and I think the lag is gone. God bless America.
Oh, buddy. But beyond that, we are moving on into our next bit of news. Just to make sure that we all keep on the same page here. We got to see a Ukrainian Su-24, and look at that thing. Isn't it just amazing looking? It's beautiful. It had two scout.
Yeah, man, the snout from that angle on that plane is unreal, man. That thing's a sniffer.
Man, that thing comes up and it goes, you need to shower. It's like a dang, man. Like, that thing's got a nose. That thing's got a schnoz. Man, maybe this thing is related to Schnauzerla.
It could be. I hit him in the schnozzerla, you know, like Nozzrela.
Yeah. You see, you got it. But moving
and
on.
Kasim, Bliad, he's going to get in there, and Israel already said it. His little reign is going to be very short, very short.
That is short. But we also got to see the Ukrainian pilots right here. Hey! And we got to see them walking off literally into the sunset. How beautiful. And how romantic, actually. But moving on from that, we also got to see the Russian casualty report as well. And
oh, man, 10 Bobcats. I love to see it. Also, let's see. Guardian Crypto said back to double-digit special equipment losses. That's why I call it a good day. I would agree. That is a good day. As long as it's like in the 10s or above, I'm happy with it. Like, it's a good day. But also, Enforcer, tell us more. It looks like they got smacked in the artillery, the Snozrla, and the troops. So tell us more.
And man, they got smacked absolutely everywhere. But before we get into that, though, really quickly, I do want to say that there was a very interesting comment below that, Matthew, that you didn't mention. It was actually from a Musk oxen. Very interesting. And they said, if this would be a military parade, it would be over 1,000 kilometers long. I did the math. Let that sink in. And, okay, we let it in. Now what?
Hey, it's just
you get it?
$332. That's a damn good deal.
Really? Like, oh shit, yeah, that's great. It's like, folks, if y'all are looking for a sink in these times, this is actually a pretty good option. It's got like, it's 30 inches tall, so this isn't bad. Like, folks, consider getting this sink. I mean, geez, like that's actually a pretty good deal. You don't run into deals like that anymore. But anyways, moving on from that, we did get to see all kinds of interesting stuff. Also, really quickly, I do have to say, I see some people breaking the rules down there in the chat. We don't do politics on this channel. If you want to come in here and tell people to vote some way or another, I'm sorry, it's going to get a timeout or a ban. If y'all want to talk politics, I promise y'all, because I've been on the internet for my entire life, I know there's like a million channels that do politics in every direction. If you want to talk about who to vote for, go to one of those. This isn't the channel. We just don't do that. And I don't like support people coming in here and making their political shticks on the show. If you want to do that, do it somewhere else. But moving on from that, we did get to see that today's casualties were pretty decent, with 1,360 Russian forces being wounded and killed over the past 24 hours, along with 9 APCs, 89 supply trucks, 9 main battle tanks, 45 artillery pieces, 72 drones, 1 MLRS, and 10 Bobcat skid steers. Overall, it was a pretty freaking good day. And we love to see that the Russian Federation is continuing to lose a decent amount of forces each and every single day over each and every single hour. But moving on out of that area and up into Vovchansk, we actually got to see the Russian Volunteer Corps fighting in the aggregate plant in Vovchansk. And also we got to mute the trap, but we can see here that they're about to get ready to go.
Laying down some heat, laying down some fire. It looks like they're letting them have it.
Oh, and
they got that Bakelite too, I see.
Oh man, they got them Bakelite mags. You know it. That's the good mags.
Man, the orange mags, the first plastic.
One of the first plastics. It was actually, plastics actually existed a little bit before the Soviet Union made their Bakelite mags, but they made them orange because it's cheap. And cheap is the best thing. Even for communists, they like cheap.
Man, they love it.
Man, I freaking love cheap. It's like, man, I'm telling you what, man. But still, let's see here. Some people are, I'm seeing some people. Someone said, ha ha. Yeah, I vibe with that comment.
Also, Drake said, what is the record for KIA in a single day, I'm assuming? What is the record, Enforcer? Do you recall right off the bat?
I think it's somewhere close to 1,700.
1,700? That sounds about right.
It sounds about right. Also, I saw someone else say, the only political statement I want y'all to make is to tell people to get out and vote. Me, personally, I'm not really on that bandwagon with everyone getting out and voting, because it's like, should everyone be getting out and voting if, like, people don't know what they're voting for? You know, that's like kind of like a thing I have. Like, it's great to encourage voter turnout, but I feel like it's also unhealthy to encourage voter turnout if these people aren't actually knowledgeable on what they're voting for, whether it's in their interest or not. And so then I'm like, because like both sides are really pushing for people to just go out and vote. Like, even if they don't know what's going on or the policies or anything, they're like, get out and vote. And I'm like, is that really healthy for the Republic? Is to just make it like football where, like, you just like your team and you just vote for them just cause? It's like, I don't necessarily think so. Like, at least to me, like, I think that if you're encouraging people to vote, like, even on my end, like, if I was to tell people to get out and vote, I'd be like, first, like, verse yourself on both sides, their stances, like, don't get like their stances and talking points from their opposition, get it straight from the source, and then figure out what you like the best, and then go vote, because I just feel like, like, telling people to go just vote just cause, like, just to be involved, I feel like that actually is a little bit more detrimental than not voting, because then at that point you have a whole bunch of uninformed people just voting for both sides, and then at that point it's just a numbers game, and these people don't even know what they're actually voting for. That's at least my opinion. But anyways, with that, we are now moving on into our next little bit in Makivka, where we got to see some helicopters flying in, and we got to see some interesting little bits of footage right here. And look at that. Beautiful stuff.
I love to see it, man. What is that? That's the Heinz, aren't they?
Man, I'm telling you what, it is actually the Mi-8s.
Oh, the Mi-8s. Very nice, very nice.
This one might actually be a Hind, though. Like, let me look again. It's hard to tell, man, because we're just seeing out the window of this thing. It could be, this one could be a Hind. That one's certainly an Mi. This one is a Hind that we're watching from, but that is an Mi-8 off in the distance.
Something I've never understood about these is that back propeller spins so slow, like it's barely moving at all. Like, do you see that?
Well, that's because it's almost matching the rate of the frames of the camera, my boy.
I know. I was trying to see who's going to say, come on, man, or somebody's going to be like, wait a minute, it is moving slow. It's only moving like 5 revolutions a minute.
Man, someone's about to be like, oh, you idiot. And then they're going to go off or something. Oh, man. But anyways, we also got to see some tanks of the 54th Mechanized Brigade in a staging area near Seversk. Check this out. Listen to that engine purr.
Давай еще раз, Толь! Еще раз!
Oh. Oh, and they're on their way after running over a car that looks like it already was run over about 50 times. But moving on from that and back into the area of Luhansk, we did get to see something really cool today. You want to see it? At least a 2-second clip? All right, folks. I'm going to spoil y'all. Here's a little 2-second clip. You see the smoke? You see it? All right, now watch this. Holy moly, like it's a freaking nuclear explosion. Holy moly. But we did get to see that a little incident happened today inside of northern Luhansk, as it appears that a major ammo depot ended up blowing up. You can actually see it out there blowing up. Oh, it knocked stuff off the roof. We see these guys smoking. Oh, and he jumped a little, and they were scared, and they're getting back in the house.
Man, Albert Einstein, he came back. He's not doing math equations now. He's scared. He said, "Oh, I better go this way."
Dude, he's like, "I'm telling you, the theory of relativity didn't account for this." He's like, "I didn't expect this." Oh, you see the explosion out there from afar. But y'all want to see more of this explosion, correct? Well, you are in luck. Here's some more. We see the smoke off in the distance. When you see right after the explosion happened, the mushroom cloud rising into the sky. We can even hear the puppers screaming for a chance as the mushroom cloud rises in the distance. It honestly sounds like Sheba. Oh!
Jeez, that's a big one. Oh, even the birds decided to take off.
Man, the birds were moving out. They were looking for affordable rent. Oh, and what's this? Is this the tail end of an explosive? Oh, nice! It is, actually. And that's the end of that clip, but it doesn't look like it was a good day in Luhansk. You had a little bit of foggy skies with a slight chance of artillery rain. But we also did get a geolocation of this as well, and it did happen within the northern area of the city of Luhansk. So it seems as though we've gotten it down to a T where that happened. Moving on from that, though, and into Bakhmut, we also got to see a Ukrainian soldier surviving a near hit today, and it was a very close one. When you hear the TIE fighter outside.
That sounds interesting. I thought for a minute, I was like, what is that? Like a drone or what? That's I guess a drone.
In a second, it's going to slam down very close nearby, but it will miss.
That's got to be scary.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Thing's like a mad wasp. This guy's not even hardly breathing. Oh my God.
This guy is fine, by the way. He's just distressed. But that's the end of the clip. But once again, showing a little bit of what it's like to be on the receiving end of an FPV drone. Very luckily, it missed by a little bit. But moving on from that, we did get to see in return the Russians getting slammed by the 5th Separate Assault Brigade. And there goes a couple of Russians down there, and it looks like they're not really paying attention too much to the drone, as this man is riding a Vespa. He's just enjoying it too much, and there they go.
They put the Popeye boom pow emblem over it.
Man, they put that 300 Wia on him. You know what I mean? Like, they put that Wii on my boy. Oh, he's
just walking off.
He's
the
like,
enemy is trying to retreat.
He's like, let us go home, brother. You have gotten a close call today. And we see the Russian is lying. He's lying about many things.
Wait a minute, he just ran his pockets?
I think so. And
damn.
off he goes. He's like, thank you for the watch, buddy. I'm now going to take your Rolex and go smoke cigars like Andrew Tate, please. Hey, have fun.
And he stole the motorcycle.
Man, that man was brutal. He was like, man, new whip and new threads. Man, shit couldn't be better. And he just drove off. It's like, that's pretty freaking heartless. But speaking of something that's a little bit unfortunate today, down in the area of Kursk, we did get to hear that the Russians have slowly advanced, at least on the southern side of the battlefield, and have taken the central administrative building of the town of Seladove, which we were able to see right here.
Я официально заявляю от 30-го отдельного разведывательного батальона, что город Селидово под нашим контролем. 90 дивизия Чебаркуль.
We got this Russian up here violating OSHA regulations.
Давай делай.
I like that that he put out, though. That was a very Russian sounding, you know, like, listen to
That's what they said at Chernobyl right before they hit AZ-5. They said, hey.
No, man, that's what they said after it blew up. It went, and they went, or something like that. It's like,
Делай.
You'll sing things. Take this man to the infirmary.
And then their friends just got obliterated like a half mile away. Like,
the celebration's over. Boris just died.
Oh man, Boris and the Penguin was just lost on the northern side of Seladove. But moving on from that and into our next clip, we did get to see some more Ukrainian attack helicopters flying low. As they said in the caption, cutting grass and smacking ass. And here's the clip. There they go. That is pretty low, though.
That is extremely low.
Man, if they touch down, though, with that helicopter, like, at that kind of a, like, vertical approach speed in flight sim, I think they get, like, a 1.2 million just for the smoothness. But moving on from that and into our next clip down near the area of Kurakove, we did get to see some Russian forces getting slammed down here by the 46th Separate Air Mobile Brigade. And bam, they already got them. And here comes a whole column, and it looks like they're all about to get smacked.
Oh, the whole column is getting taken out.
Man, that's like the whole block, the whole column. Like, man, we about to spend the whole block. Yeah, man, we about to spend the whole column, bleed. And they just started blasting them.
This is like a foreshadowing of what's going to happen to the North Koreans when they finally get here.
Man, the North Koreans aren't even going to have it this nice, man. It's going to be worse for them.
It's going to be very tough for them. They're going to be very hungry and without food, angry, and also scared of the Russians, which are behind them, threatening to shoot them, probably.
Man, the North Koreans are going to show up. They're going to be like, we are very hungry. And Mike Tyson's going to be like, hungry like me? And they're going to be like, no, like really hungry. Like, we aren't hungry for a win. We're starving. We need food. Oh,
don't show them what'd you do for a Klondike bar commercial, because they would literally do probably anything.
Man. What would you do for a Klondike bar? Yeah, yeah. And then starts committing war crimes against the Geneva Convention. It's like, man, they would do a lot for one of those. But we could see the 46 just continuing to slam these Russians.
Also, while we're at it, don't ask a hot dog man what do you do for a Klondike bar either, because that'd also be very ugly.
Aw, man. What would I do for a sub? Aw, man. I would do so much for a sub. I will literally lose my humanity for a sub. Aw, man. And a bing. And another one. And a whole bing. And here comes another bullet. Bam. Right onto the roof. Goodbye to Coco Felon, bleed.
Coco Felon? Was that like a play on Coco Melon or something?
I think it
Coco
is.
Felon.
That is it's the Coco Felon.
Coco grew up and got a bad life.
Coco Melon grew up and eventually was charged with possession of drug paraphernalia or something like that. It's like, man, ripped a Coco Felon, bleed. But here's the last part of the clip that we just saw a second ago. And they did turn one of the Russian vehicles into a hill rider, bleed, and sent the turret flying. And that's the end of that clip, but boy, it was a bad day for Russians, a good day for Ukraine. Moving on from that, though, and into the southern front, we also did get to see some Russian artillery getting counter-batteried, as we would call it, or slammed in other terms. And we can see right here the barrel of a Mr. B. And now they're going to show us the really sick intro of the Ronin unit. And look at that, it's the samurai people of Ukraine. And they're about to start dropping samurai drones down onto those Russian people that are not supposed to be in Ukraine. And here it comes, very slowly, very gently. Bang, and they get it. And now they get another one. And there we go. They hit it again. Actually, that one flew away. Now here comes the next one. And we can see the drone just creeping in very gently. And there we go, right on the barrel, destroying it. And wha-bang, they got that one as well. Man, I'm telling you, the accuracy on these Ukrainian drones is just amazing.
They're getting better and better at it, and they were already good, but now they're just getting real lethal.
Man, call them lethal company. Like the
Call
game.
them Ronin's Brigade.
And look at that, it's the Ronin again. Really cool. Nice to see. Moving on from that, though, and a little bit further on down the lines and into the area of Kryvyi Rih, we did get to see an F-16 in the skies above. Now, folks, I am a master at identifying aircraft, and that is 100% F-16. And there it goes. Really neat. Pretty cool. But moving on from that little clip of that F-16, we do have some updates from the Middle East. By the way, Romania is wanting to shoot down Russian drones. They might do that in a bit. It's not really anything we have to cover too much. But moving on from that and down into the Middle East, we were able to see that Israeli ground operations within southern Lebanon continue today, much to the dismay of many people. And so here's the clip. This man has a Glock. That's pretty neat. See him looking down the hall. We're not really hearing a lot of audio here.
Oh.
Huh, interesting. He found a Hezbollah fighter right there. I think. They've muted the audio again.
It's like those police body cam footages. Whenever they say something you don't want to hear, it's like they might just mute it.
They're telling him, we just got your guy Nasrallah in the Nasrallah. Okay, now move over here. Like, it's like, okay. And then now we can see the guy there. Telling him to get down again. Here goes another guy.
What the hell was that?
Okay. Okay, very, very interesting noise. Let's listen to this again. Okay, I don't know what that was.
What the hell?
I have no clue what that was, but
sounds like a hot dog man.
I'm guessing he's unhappy to have been defeated, perhaps. He did it again. Okay. Well, anyways, with that, that's the end of the clip. Very interested to see, but nevertheless, the ground operations continue. Moving on from that and into Beirut, we were able to hear that Hezbollah has a new leader. Rejoice! His name is Naim Qassem, so that we all know who the next target is. And we already got to see that Yoav Gallant put out temporary appointment, not for long, and they put a picture of him up right here. This will probably be the last picture you all see of him. Just putting that out there because
the dumbest guy ever to take that position. Like, it's literally like you're putting yourself in a target.
Dude, they're like, the Iranian government was like, you want to die? And he was like, yeah. He's like, I'll take it. But beyond that, But beyond that, Israel does commit to another big attack on Iran, and Iran promises a big surprise for Israel. And a lot of people have been putting in their thoughts, and it seems as though a lot of people are believing that a regional war is highly likely. Like we're already not in one. I'm just kidding. But a lot of people are also saying that it's a bunch of hoopla, quite literally. Some people are saying the regional war is not very likely, and others are unsure and undecided. But Matthew, what are people thinking, and what are you thinking as well?
So 61% of the audience said a regional war is highly likely between Israel and Iran, while 18% said it's really just a bunch of hoopla, and 14% said a regional war is not very likely. And I would say this, they're basically already in a war right now, and it's not, obviously like a ground war or anything like that, but it is nonetheless a war. This is literally a tit for tat, and it's been going on for months. So, even though it's not like the traditional sense of a war, it basically is. And it looks like Israel said the other day, or actually yesterday, they said, we forgot to attack Iran over the attack on Netanyahu's house about a week or two ago, so we're going to hit them again. That's probably because the people in their country were not happy with the response that they gave toward Iran, so they found a new reason to go back and hit them in the snazrala once again. And now Iran's promising a very big surprise for Israel, like it's a Christmas party. So it is what it is. It's a tit for tat, and I think it's already a war. So kind of like hoopla, kind of like war. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that in my opinion, it probably will become a regional war. I think at this point it really is. It's just that it's a very low intensity one that doesn't really happen regularly. It's just every Tuesday. So I would say that this is certainly going to be a highly likely chance that this is a regional war, at least in my opinion. But moving on from that and out of the Middle East, it's now time for us to move up into Ukraine, where we can hear the speech from our wonderful and glorious president of Ukraine, President Volodymyr Zelensky. And what? He hasn't put out a speech for the past few days? Is he all right?
Oh, no, it can't be.
I have gotten the flu. But let me see here. Let me see if I can find him really quickly. Oh, goodness. That wasn't supposed to be like that. Well, now was it? It was not. And so here we go. I finally found his YouTube. And you know what's crazy, y'all, is that he has 340,000 subscribers on the official President of Ukraine YouTube channel, and we have like 301, so we're almost as big as the president's channel. But beyond that, it is time for that speech. You know what I mean? That delicious, wonderful speech.
Please bring out speech, Bliat. I would like long-lasting speech. If you just give me a chance, just a chance to speak.
A real chance, a long-lasting chance. And so, here we go. I think...
Дуже дякую.
Oh my god, he's speaking in English and they have a Ukrainian dub. Our life has to be so difficult, doesn't it have to be, Matthew? Why do they have to do this?
Can I see it? Can I see the thing so I can try to find the English one?
It's this one.
Let's see here. Hold on, let me enlarge the page. Let's see here. So he's speaking here with this fellow. Do we know who that is? Is that Norway's prime minister?
I think so.
Okay, let's see here. Hold on, give me just a second, folks, because I cannot handle that dub being over that. That drives me nuts. Let's see. Norway and Ukraine.
Please help me, people. Make it make sense. We will see if Matthew can find it. Hopefully he can. If he cannot, we panic.
I have the chance. Let's see here. I think I might have it. Let me see here. Streamed 17 hours ago. I think I might have it. Let me copy this video URL. It looks slightly different. I'm not sure if this is the same one, so let me let you take a look at it, and you can tell me. All right, let's see here. Copy and paste and send. Take a peek.
We're taking a second and live chat. What do I say here? Live chat. Is it in the live chat, Matthew? Is it?
No, it's in your Discord.
Oh, it's in my. Oh heavens. Okay. All right. Here we go. It appears to be the one. Oh yes, it is the one. Rejoice, everyone. We have a speech for tonight. God bless the United States. God bless Ukraine. I can't do that too much though. It will hurt my voice, but.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we have it. Oh, thank the heavens. All right, it's time for the speech, folks. Speech.
For your words, for an invitation. Great honor to be here, Mr. Speaker, Madam President, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pleased to have this opportunity to address you today. First of all, I would like to thank each of you as well as the people you represent. Iceland, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, Finland. We truly feel your support, and we will always remember the heartfelt commitment of the Nordic nations in helping us defend our country, our people, our freedom. Thank you so much. Your support is one of the strongest in the world. It's true here in Iceland, and especially in this historic Alþingi building, one can distinctly sense what it means to value time. It becomes clear how important it is for a society to grow and preserve its best qualities, not just for years, but for our generations. Your respect for freedom, human life, and the environment reflects the time you've had to live in peace, build your culture, and preserve that unique spirit found only in the Nordic countries. You have had this precious time in peace. Ukraine too had the right to such time. Our people, our strong people, deserve generations of peace, a time to live, to develop our culture, and to freely share with the world what makes Ukraine unique. Not a temporary pause of the horror that Russia, Putin, and their aggression has unleashed, nor a few years of quiet before the next Russia's invasion, and certainly not a lifetime under the will of some madman in the Kremlin. Ukrainians have the right to true and lasting peace, and I thank you for helping us achieve it. Without you, we wouldn't have been able to stand strong. Thank you for all your help. Dear friends, Ukraine has not wasted a single day in its efforts to bring peace closer. Tomorrow, a special conference will begin in Canada on one of the most very sensitive issues in our peace formula. The Ukrainian team and many of our partners will work on the matter of bringing back Ukrainian children who were taken by Russia. This is one of the most painful aspects of this terrible war. And we are talking about tens of thousands of children who were abducted by Russia from Ukraine's occupied territories. For some of these children, we know where they are, what condition they are in, and the ways they are being taught to forget Ukraine. Even being lied to that they have no families, but for most of them, we don't yet know their whereabouts. These are children from orphanages in Russian-occupied areas, children who lost their parents to Russian bombs, and those separated from their families during Russia's filtration processes. They are infants, teenagers, and so many young lives that should not be scattered across Russia, taught to hate Ukraine, but instead should be with their loved ones in their own country. Forcing children from one nation into another and erasing their identities is clearly a genocidal practice. Russia has been doing this since the very beginning of the invasion. The International Criminal Court has already issued a warrant for Putin's arrest based on these actions. While we have managed to bring some of these children back, each child who spends a year or two in such conditions loses far more than just time. This is, in many ways, a loss of their own future. Wars often leave monuments to unknown soldiers. But let us at least not leave a monument to the stolen and deported futures of these Ukrainian children. This is one of the many, many reasons why this war cannot simply end with mere silence on the front lines after behind the scenes discussions and private agreements by a handful of politicians. We must bring back the deported and captured people to Ukraine. We must restore justice for the millions whose cities and villages were destroyed by exactly Russian bombs. We must prevent any return of Russian aggression, and this requires fully restoring the power of international law and the UN Charter. We must secure Ukraine's sovereignty and our territorial integrity, our people's safety, and our right to live freely, just like your nations, just like any other people. Real peace always has many components. It means addressing the needs of both people and security. We have all the answers necessary for this, and I am grateful to your countries and all our partners who support Ukraine's victory plan. It is a clear and powerful set of points that can force Russia into a true peace. Yesterday we discussed it with prime ministers of your countries and the Ukrainian Nordic Summit, and we spoke about defense. We spoke about our joint production, geopolitical, economic matters, all the things that give us shared strengths. And I thank for the willingness to implement the victory plan. We agreed on this yesterday with the prime ministers of your countries. Dear friends, the free world has everything it needs to defend itself and everything people value in life. It has everything from moral integrity to military strength. All that is needed is the resolve to act, to implement what is necessary for peace. And I urge you to continue to work with us and with all other partners to protect life from Russia's attacks. And I urge you to keep pressing Russia for this war. Effective sanctions against Russia, stopping Russia's shadow tanker fleet that funds Putin aggression, and providing all necessary weapons to our soldiers. These are all tools that bring true peace closer. And I ask you to continue building all necessary, shared and national production that secures freedom. Air defense, weapons, microchips, all of it matters. We must develop our cooperation in Europe and the Euro-Atlantic region. Unity is crucial. Unity keeps Europe peaceful. And this is why Ukraine strives to be part of this unity. Our people, our nation deserve to join the EU and NATO. And I am grateful to your countries for supporting us on this path to geopolitical certainty. And please remember, in wartime, every decision made by a partner country of the one under attack is first and foremost a decision about timing. Time for how long the war will last, how long injustice will last, how long there will be no true lasting peace. May your decisions and the war and bring real lasting peace, not a temporary illusion. This is absolutely possible. Ukraine deserves true peace. It's just as crystal clear and transparent as the water we saw yesterday here in Thingvellir. Thank you. Slava Ukraini.
And Slava. Okay, I have to clear up something though, Matthew. The flags are not green screen. They are real flags. There's like a screen behind them. You can see it like bleeding through here and there. But this is driving me crazy, folks. I don't know who was up with the stage design here. It was someone like in a Scandinavian diplomatic team that did this. But I just don't understand. What is up with the denim jean style seam lines that are so like apparent on these flags? Like they were on like all of them, but especially the one right behind Zelensky. I think that's like the Faroe Islands or something like that. Why Dude, don't you see that, man? It looks like freaking Levi's jeans. Like, I'm not against jeans. I love jeans. But I don't think it's good for flags to look kind of like jeans. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see it now. I thought you were talking about like the part in between the flags or something. I was like, "Ah, that's a screen behind the flags." But I see what you're talking about now. It's like sewn on like suede or something like that on the flag. Yeah, I thought it looked okay.
Oh my god. Dude, it was just driving me crazy, man. Because I was listening to Zelensky's speech, and then I looked up at that, and I was like, what the hell, did they make these out of used Levi's? I was like, what is that? And then I started looking at more, and I was like, ew. And then they panned the camera over here, and you can see it on this one and that one. I was like, what the hell are they doing? Like, I don't get it. I don't know. Like, I don't really like that. Like, if you're going to use, like, you have to seam these like together. But the sewing seam lines here, they should be the same color thread as the actual color underneath them. You know, like, I don't know. Like, but beyond that, I do stand for Zelensky's message of real peace, long-lasting peace. And so with that, we are going to be moving on from that speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky, and that does wrap up the Day 979 news summary and moves us on into this second segment. And this is an incredibly fun segment because we get to talk to each and every single one of y'all, and boy, what a night it has been. It has actually not been one of our biggest nights, kind of nicely enough. It doesn't feel like there's not much pressure. There was only 7,200 people here, which isn't much. I mean, like, that's only a small, well, one of the smaller, largest auditoriums in America. But hey, I was pretty happy with it. But beyond that, I thank everyone who's been here so much for watching so far. I hope that many of y'all do stick around because we would love to have y'all here and continue to be here as we get to talk to each and every single one of y'all. And so, Matthew, without further ado, what do we have?
All right, so it's now time for the final question segment of the night. The most highly anticipated part of the entire stream is the last question segment. And moving on to the last one here, we have a $100 donation from Dustin Mayo, and he's throwing in a ton of support tonight. And Dustin's actually throwing in a total of $300 in support tonight. And huge shout to you, Dustin, for the 100 as well. He said the SEAL team is stationed in Alaska due to Russia and China.
And I think that is true. I think there is a SEAL team up there. There's a lot in Alaska, actually. The Alaskan Air National Guard actually has F-22s, and I think it's one of the few Air National Guards in the United States to have those. We generally outfit Alaska with a lot because, for the most part, Alaska is pretty much one of the first staging areas for us to conduct a defense of America's skies against the Russian Federation or China, as most of their intercontinental ballistic missiles or any other kind of attack against the United States would largely come through Alaska or somewhere very close to Alaska. So that is actually true. I thank you so much for the support and sharing that info with us, Dustin Mayo, because that is pretty neat to think about. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to talk about interesting facts like that, the importance that Alaska plays in the modern nuclear age in America's security, and not only that, we wouldn't be able to get to talk to interesting folks like you, Dustin. And you've been around for an incredibly long time, by the way, and I got to thank you for throwing in the insanely massive support tonight, because it helps us to keep this channel rolling. And so a big thanks to you once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next super chat here is going to go to BC Skyman once again. He threw in another $50 donation right after the last one that he did, and I just didn't have the chance to call it off. But a huge shout to BC once again for the extra $50 support, without a comment, that is. But of course, we appreciate it very much, BC and Enforcer. What say you?
And I got to thank you so much for the support, BC Skyman, as well. You didn't throw in a comment, but we are greatly appreciative. And I thank you so much once again for always being a massive, long-lasting member of this channel and supporting this channel and helping us to keep it running, because if it was not for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible, and we wouldn't be here right now. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that this addressed that incredibly well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And the next one here goes to Mr. Jack Ray, who puts in a 21. And thank you very much, Jack Ray, for that $21 support. We appreciate it. And also, thank you for being a longtime channel legend. He said, I just bought one of those Make Russia Small Again shirts in Mr. Lunchtime size, 5XL, black, and a near Mr. Lunchtime size, a 4XL in gray.
Hey, and I thank you so much for getting a Make Russia Small Again t-shirt from the official EnforcerStore.com. Now, y'all know these shirts they do be unequivocally bussin', and they are incredibly nice to see. They're beautiful, they're wonderful, they're inspired by a shirt worn by Zelensky himself. They're incredibly wonderful. We love them, and I thank you so much, Jack Ray, for getting 2 of them, one in 5XL and one in 4XL. Now, that is a shirt, and I do have to say that y'all can get one as well from officialenforcerstore.com. The link is in the description below. They are $25 a piece, fairly affordable for a custom-made t-shirt. We try and make sure that they are. And they also come in multiple colors, from black to navy to military green to charcoal to sand to coral silk and finally tropical blue. Ding, or whatever the hell it is. But you can also get it in multiple sizes, small to 5XL. And boy, howdy, you can get as many of them as you want. You want 20? Maybe even 30, 40 even.
And what are you trying to do? Outfit a brigade?
I don't know. Am I?
Wow.
We're just going to
What's
keep...
the total on that? Add 100 to cart and see what the total is. I'm curious.
Let's see.
How much does that cost? View cart?
Let's see. I'm scared it might show an address or something like that. Let me move it off screen.
Just view cart and it'll be good.
Holy moly! Like, you know, this should have made sense. They are $25 a pop, but it's $2,500 for 100 shirts.
Hey, that's quick math.
Man, quick maths. Like, we should have known it would have been $2,500. We sound stupid tonight, man. I got the capital of Texas wrong, and then we went, how much do 100 shirts cost when they're $25? So obviously it'd be $2,500, but still, not bad. Not bad. You know, like, just in case if someone did want to get 100 of them. You know, like, geez, I mean, you know, if you did, I don't know why you getting that many of them, but hey, you can get 100 of them. You can get 400 of them. You know, if you wanted to outfit an entire brigade with these things, you could get 3,000 of them. The sky is the limit. Hell, space is the limit, really. You can go into long-lasting space and get so many of these things, it makes your head spin. You could build a house out of these things, a tent even. But still, they are very nice. They are really cool. Of course, they're Gildan. They're 100% U.S. soft cotton. We don't use none of that Egyptian cotton. Because not that we have anything against Egypt, it's just that, you know, we're all American. And so it is 100% American soft cotton sourced locally from our local farms here in California, which are nowhere close to where we are, actually. But nevertheless, you can get a load of these shirts, and they're wonderful. And so I hope that y'all, of course, get some while you can. They are only going to be up on the store until Saturday this week, and then they're gone for good. And so please do get one while you can, because once they're gone for good. And we'll probably be going on to the next release of another big thing, probably LSA flags, to be entirely honest, or a different variation of this shirt for a different country. But still, I hope that has addressed that the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one. But thank you so much once again for support, Jack Ray, for getting 2 of those shirts, and I hope that you enjoy them greatly, and I hope that they stand up to the test of time, much like most Enforcer products have, since we've been able to make sure that our merch is run solely on its own instead of through a third party, because while they were good, they weren't up to Enforcer spec, in my opinion. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next super chat here goes to none other than LSA Rocks, who put in a $20 donation, and thank you very much, LSA Rocks, for $20 support. We appreciate it. He said, Marmot will prevail. Done.
And the Marmot will prevail. And you know what? That is something that we just have not... Oh, man, you wouldn't believe this. Google finally updated. It says, you visit often, Marmot.
Oh, look at that, man! That's crazy. We're going on the Marmot thing so often. It says like you're looking at it too much. That's crazy.
It's like you visit this often. It's like seek psychological guidance. It's like, yeah, I'm good, but
Hey, hello there, Governor. How you doing today, good sir? The hot dog man, he wants a few of those shirts. Make Russia small again. He wants a few of them. His ego and everything else is already crushed and it's very small, but also make Russia small to fit it as well.
Aw, man. You think you can just keep dissing on me like that? I'm about to cook up a mean hit. Wait, is that freaking Keemstar? Never mind, man. Like,
it's a drama alert. They're lurking around the channel, Governor. It's not good for your health. It's bad for your channel's health and safety, Governor. It's terrible. The drama alert hanging around. It could be a bad story. Oh dear.
Oh my lord, dude. That was funny though. We do have to tell you all this because this is something that we've noticed, and it's just it's made Matthew and me laugh so hard behind the scenes. So many of y'all may know this recently, but apparently, which is something I didn't know, this was a big surprise to us about a week ago, Keemstar, who is the YouTuber who runs Drama Alert, actually watches this channel and is a fan of it. We actually were really shocked by that. We actually were like blown away by that, and it's really cool to think that he is. It's really cool to think that loads of people are, but you know, he's one of the folks we were like, no way, he watches the show? Because I used to watch a couple of his videos way back in the day, like well, not really way back in the day, but like the late 2010s. I used to watch his videos when I was in high school and stuff, a fair bit. And so I was like, no way, he watches the show. And since then, we have never heard the hot dog man say one disparaging word against the channel. Like, since he popped in the chat, was like, hey, I like the show. We've never heard a disparaging word since. Like that has been something that has been hilarious to us. Like, we don't know why, because, you know, it's not like anyone even knows who this guy is, like, you know, who the hot dog man is, but it's like, you know, it's like, that's weird. That was hilarious to me, man. I was like, we're just over here doing our thing, and that guy over there was like, I freaking hate y'all so much. I hope you die in a fire. I'm gonna make another hit piece. And then as soon as let's see, it was actually a couple of people who backed up the channel, but Keemstar was one of them. He was just like, I'm disappearing. He literally did that meme where that guy threw up the peace sign and just faded away and disappeared. I was like, dude, you can't quit now. It's like, come on, man, keep it going. I want another hit piece.
Oh man, he just suddenly rode off into the sunset and said, oh, I'm not being bullied anymore. I take it all back. Oh man.
He's like, I want to live. It's like, bro, he's not even going to get involved. I just want another hit piece. I really enjoy them at this point, and I really enjoy seeing someone ramble about us for like an hour straight. I think it's fun. So please make another one. There will be no consequence, no expense will be spared for consequence. Please make another hit piece. I would love to see it. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. I just found that funny. And we were getting a huge laugh out of that the other day, because, you know, every once in a while, like recently, we haven't heard anyone coming up to us and telling us he's saying stuff about us anymore. And we were like, oh, you're like, did he really go quiet on us? And yep. Nowhere to be heard. Not on Twitter, not on YouTube, not on the other channel that the guy has that's a gaming channel. Literally no comments from what we can see publicly. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. I was like, what a kind of like a breath of fresh air, but at the same time, it's like we're always used to hearing at least some static from that direction. And it's like, now we're hearing nothing. It's like, I'm kind of sad. I kind of miss Hot Dog Man. Please. Wait, dude. Hot Dog Man, now I know I was wrong. I messed up, and now you're gone.
Hot Dog Man, come back.
Hot Dog Man, I'm sorry, I didn't expect you to run away and leave me feeling this empty, or something like that. It's like, okay, I guess he's gone now, but hey, that's fine with me. We just move on.
Hot Dog Man, come home.
Oh man, I'm wondering if I should. No, I'm not gonna say that one because it's too close to saying his channel name. But let's see. Wait, hang on. Let me think. I'm trying to think. Glizzy, come home, or something like that.
The world famous Glizzy Gobbler.
Oh man. Oh goodness. But you know something else that's made me laugh, dude, is let's see. It was on his Twitter recently. I don't know if you saw it, Matthew. But the guy sat there and he's to explain something to y'all, like basic story. He's apparently found some Ukrainian refugee women, which I find it very interesting. He's only helping out Ukrainian refugee women instead of women and men who are in this place where he is. But nevertheless, it's only women. Kind of interesting with that, but oh well. Anyways, he's helping them out to apparently get some sort of a visa or citizenship or something like that. And so one of them, I don't know what it is, but he posted pictures on his Twitter like they were like he was her boyfriend or something like that. Didn't you get that from it, Matthew? Like the way the pictures were posed and everything. I was like, that's a little weird. I was like, that's kind of like that simping white knight kind of a stuff. I was like, I don't know about that one, man. I was like, that's a little weird. That's that kind of stuff, you know, like he was in Kyiv. Remember that, where he's like, I can't believe how the Ukrainian men treat their women. Oh my goodness. Like I would treat them so much better. Like on his Twitter. You remember that?
Yeah, it's just a odd situation all the way around. And like you said, how come he's not helping out all the refugees and stuff? How come he's only helping out the 3 women refugees? It's like, come on, dude. It's like you know, they're trying to like get helped out here here. Like, I understand, like, they need to get some help to be able to get their visas and things like that. But it's like at the same time, it's like, I was like, this is seeming a little bit strange.
Well, I was like thinking, well, I guess he's taking, like, honestly, I wasn't gonna like dog it at the start. I was like, I guess he took on like a project to help out a Ukrainian refugee, just happens to be a woman. But then now he's dealing with 3 women. And only women. I've never seen him help out a Ukrainian refugee that is a man. Because there are not many, but there are some, like senior citizens who fled, or, children that fled with their moms. I haven't seen any of that. It's just single women from Ukraine he's helping out. I'm like, isn't that kind of interesting? Maybe that shows that he isn't really helping out Ukraine for selfless interest. Maybe he's just helping out Ukraine to try and take advantage of the situation a little bit. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm reading into it too much, but when you are dealing with nothing but women that are in your same age bracket, and only women, when you say that you're willing to help out Ukraine in total, and then you're like kind of like simping for him a little bit and taking pictures on Twitter that's trying to like suggest that there's a relationship going on, although it's very clear that he's being friend zoned, is like, isn't that kind of weird? I find it really weird, just being entirely honest.
Also, a Schwan in the live chat said, imagine defending your country and your girl is gone with Hot Dog Man.
Oh,
Oh my God. That is like, when they tell you in the army or something like that, oh, like Jody's got your girl or something like that back home. It's like, they always say that, but it's like, if you knew who it was, like if you could picture Hot Dog Man as Jody, oh my God, like the soldier has to get through that war quick, because they have to come back and go straighten the situation out or something like that, because they can't take it. Like, they can't take it. Of everybody, Hot Dog Man, I like, really, in a foreign country with Hot Dog Man, that would be too much to bear.
Dude, like, one of those soldiers just saw that picture and he's like, oh my God. Dude, he literally went straight to Zelensky's office and busted out the door and said, Zelensky. And Zelensky said, yes. And he said, I have to get my girl. What do you mean? Hot Dog Man's trying to steal my freaking girl. You're given a permanent diplomatic leave. You can go. Like, and he's like straight on a plane to America or something.
I'm not gonna lie though, if I was a Ukrainian soldier and all of a sudden my girl ran off to America and hung out with Hot Dog Man, I'd be like, okay, you can just have her. Like just have her at this point. You're hanging out with Hot Dog Man. It's like, bye bye.
It's like, well, dude, if you'd have to have a low goalpost right there. Like, yes, my ideal man finds working as a carny too difficult and smokes weed and plays video games all day. This is my ideal man. It's like, that's a low goalpost right there. It's like you're not even like putting it out that he has to have a stable job. Like, that's as low as it gets, like, in my opinion. I'm not saying that you have to date someone that's a millionaire or something, but at least works, like has a work ethic. Because how in the world are they going to support, like, the family for that matter? Like, that's my thing. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. A good Marmot segment, by the way. I was enjoying it. And I thank you so much once again for support and allowing us to have this one little Hot Dog Man segment, because it's a fun segment, a long-lasting segment. And with that, thank you so much once again for support. And we are on to the next one.
All right, and this next one here goes to none other than BC Skyman, who's also a channel legend as well. This is his third super chat of the night, that is. And BC threw in at 20 this time. And huge shout out to BC once again for the continued support here. And also, I do not see a comment attached. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I got to thank you so much once again for the support, BC Skyman, because once again, if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible. I thank you for throwing in that support. It has no comment, but we are still greatly appreciative of it, and thank you, because if it wasn't for folks like you who support this channel and help to keep on running, we would not be able to make this thing possible. And so a huge thanks to you once again, and with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one's going to go to Telmed, who's a channel legend, by the way, and puts in a $20 donation. And it's good to see you once again, Telmed, and we appreciate that $20 support. He said, I'm surprised you didn't say anything about Moscow's new 200-foot poop geyser.
Wait a minute, that happened, Matty? Do you hear anything about that?
I didn't hear about a poop geyser. I'm really not sure what he's talking about, actually.
I don't have a clue what he's talking about. Like, this is news to me. It happened. Like, if you have any additional information on that, please send it to us over Twitter, because I haven't heard anything about it. And if that did happen, I personally want to know. Like, I want to talk about that. But for the moment, I am going to have to declare ignorance on it, because I haven't heard of anything that happened like that specifically to be able to make a comment on it. But one thing I do want to say, though, is that Russia, well, Moscow specifically, does have this international airport up here called the Pushkin, pretty much the Pushkin International Airport. It's a pretty interesting one as far as they go. And I was wondering, do y'all want to see what Pushkin International Airport looks like, just out of the blue? Do y'all want to see it? I will show you. This is what it looks like. They have a capsule hotel.
You're going to get some arrow sleep in the capsule hotel.
Man, let's see here. They have the statue of Pushkin, bled. What else do they have? They have the Dvoprolet. Very cool, very neat. And what do they have here? This airport kind of looks like this is an expo thing. This isn't the actual airport. This airport, I'm not going to lie, is pretty unimaginative. Like, it kind of looks like worse than Atlanta, like, in my opinion. And Atlanta isn't really that good looking. Well, this part's kind of cool, but not really. Honestly, dude, this thing, like, wholly looks Soviet, really.
I think Atlanta's airport looks the worst.
I think it does. I think this thing actually may beat Atlanta a little bit, but not by a lot, like, in my opinion. And that's not just trying to be biased and, like, put Russia down on everything. It's just that it doesn't look good. Like, it's not even that good enough for people to actually take pictures of the terminal. Like, my favorite airport so far is Seattle's, like, being entirely honest with y'all. That's my favorite. Dallas was sort of close second, but this, it's just not doing anything for me. Like, look at that.
I want to fly into that Singapore airport with the waterfall in the middle. That seems like the best airport in the world.
It might be. Let's see. Can I think of another airport that would be cool here in the United States? LAX isn't it? I just had to throw that one out there and put that down instantly. I was like, that's not it.
Denver airport would be pretty nice.
No, dude, I'm not going to Swastika Airport. Like, I'm not going to.
Whoa.
Well, that's what
Jack.
it looks like.
No, not for that. Not for that. Like the actual terminal.
Man, I just don't vibe with this airport because of the runway structure, man. Like, you go into here, you hear, like, this is United 3313. It's like, it's just like, nah, I'm good, man. And then they got that freaking weird horse and everything. They got, like, dude, Denver International is just too whack for me, man. Like, just being entirely honest. I don't like it. Like, it's too weird. But Chicago O'Hare, though, that's one we haven't talked about, Matthew, at all.
Man, that's a busy looking airport.
Yeah, it does look busy, doesn't it? And what does it look like in there? Actually pretty cool. Like, that's one of the more interesting ones I've seen. They even have a F4F Wildcat in there, Matthew. I mean, who doesn't like a Wildcat? Grr, you know what I mean? Like, that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. I like that. O'Hare, like fast as a hare. It's like, reminds me of the tortoise and the hare. Remember, folks, running fast doesn't help. Be the tortoise.
You know, folks, running from your life's problems doesn't help. You ought to just slowly meander through them and live in a miserable existence. But
CNN's in there. Oh my God! Wait, well, is that true?
Oh,
the
it's a
newsstand in Chicago. Oh, okay, it's just a newsstand.
Okay, so they're just pouring sewage into the terminus. That's fine. But let's see.
That's where the smell's coming from.
That's where that reeking scent is from. And then they have In Motion Entertainment. That looks like
they got that in pretty much every airport.
Yeah, that looks like a fun store. They have a McDonald's. Everyone has a McDonald's.
With a Mech Cafe.
Dude, it's like, where's the Mech Cafe though? Like, I don't see the cafe part. Oh, well, I mean, doesn't every McDonald's serve coffee though? I mean, like, every single one of them has a percolator. Let's see here. What else do they have? I don't know. But then, let's see, Chicago O'Hare, it looks okay. It doesn't look bad. But what about, though, if we're talking about another major hub, let's see, Denver is one of them. I just don't like the runway structure. And, also the inside's kind of a little wacky at times. O'Hare is not that bad. I didn't like LAX. It seemed old. Seattle was pretty cool. And then that means that we're left, Matthew, with, I think, just one, which is JFK.
JFK. Also, by the way, I found the Poop Geyser video. It was sent to me by Miss Disa on Twitter. If you want to go take a look, I just reposted it.
Poop Geyser.
There was a big sheet, going up in the middle of Miskia is adding to the smell.
Oh my God. Oh my God, dude.
It's a big sheet.
This is some real big shit, blade. Oh my God.
Oh my God. There's someone doing the barf in the background here.
Holy. Oh my Lord. Dude, oh my God.
You don't have curtain pandas here, blade, because the poop is in the air.
I think, Matthew, at a minimum, this has to be a health hazard.
I think OSHA would say shut it down.
I will say this though, for the residents nearby, it was a shitty day. But it's like I wouldn't want to live in those high rises, man. Wake up in the morning, just looking at this shit geyser. It's a literal geyser of feces. Like, that's terrible.
Also, the sewer did have pressure behind it, Monster Lab. I don't know why the sewer is pressurized like that. I don't know if they're all pressurized, but that's definitely not a good thing to pressurize your doo-doo in the pipe.
Oh my god. Oh my lord. Dude, look at it. It's literally like 100% turd. Like, it's just that solid.
That's straight from the Kremlin.
Dude, straight from Lavrov's bathroom. And now it's turning a little bit more clear looking. They're getting more towards the piss side of the sewer. But this is just horrendous.
Real piss.
This is that real piss that Zelensky's been talking about. Long-lasting piss. Like, it's here. It's finally here. But still, do not pressurize the doo-doo valves, folks. It leads to explosive results. Quite literally. Or this could be your average day at Tasty Period, Vykutna i Tochka. This is your average bathroom experience after eating the Russian McDonald's. But beyond that, that is pretty bad, man. That's pretty freaking bad. But moving on from that freaking horrendous nightmare right there that I would hate to live near, JFK doesn't look that bad. I mean, it doesn't look bad. Also, by the way, JFK actually does have a connection. This is really cool, by the way. Cool fun fact, because you know I'm like a rail fan. But they have a connection by train from the actual airport. It goes to all of the terminals, and then it goes out along this interstate here, Interstate 678, all the way up here to Jamaica Station, which is actually the most, it's the busiest railroad interchange in all of America. Like, no joking. It's actually really cool looking, too. Like, I'll show it to you. Like, you see that? You see the platforms here, and you see those Long Island Railroad M7 multiple units. It's just such a vibe. Like, it really is. Let me see if I can get you a better picture. This is what it actually looks like. It's pretty cool.
It's okay, Bliat.
What, you don't like it?
It's okay.
You're telling me you don't like it? What the hell do you mean you don't like it? Look, it's a rail treatment train. It's cleaning the rails and maintaining them. I mean, like, isn't that cool? Look at this. This is an M9. An M9 multiple unit. These are like brand new.
Hopefully a New Yorker doesn't yell an obscenity.
1029 Penn Station, train next on track 4, next express, Penn Station, New York, next 4, track 4.
Isn't that cool? I mean, like, dude, this is just amazing. This is great. This is the best it ever gets. I mean, that's pretty cool. It's just in the middle of Long Island, the most busiest railroad interchange in all of America. It's just right there in front of your eyes. Like, if you just wanted to see it, there it is. But
someone said in the live chat, I can confirm Jamaica Station is not a vibe. LOL. There we go.
It's not. Like, it's not really that much of a vibe, but it is kind of cool that it's the busiest one in America. Still, I wouldn't want to stop at it. I would want to stop, Matthew, at the literal stop called Hicksville. Did you know that there's a stop literally called Hicksville, and there's a town on Long Island called Hicksville?
I didn't think that was in New York.
Yep, that's where we belong, Matthew. We belong in Hicksville. Period. Like, this is where we're from, Matthew. We're from, and you see it, Hicksville.
Oh man.
Oh man, I'm gonna drag my nuts over their hometown. It's like that would not go well. In fact, that might actually improve the local area. But please go ahead and try it. It's like it's not gonna work. But anyways, moving on from that, I hope y'all enjoyed that small little rabbit hole there fairly well. And with that, I thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next super chat goes to Kiff, who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Kiff, for that $10 support. And he said that thanks for the news and helping me stay awake on my night shift in the UK. And we have no snow here for me to be able to make coffee.
Dang, that's got to be a rough life to not make coffee made of snow. But I do thank you so much.
Watch it on the expensive Dell computers.
You got to add in the expensive Dell computers, man. But still, I gotta thank you so much for the support, Kif, and I thank you for the news and helping you to stay awake on your night shift in the UK, because many people in the United Kingdom have to work 50 jobs a week to survive. They also sit on their advertisements for expensive Buckingham tours as they drink their tea made of snow. But nevertheless, I do thank you so much for the support, Kif, and helping this channel to keep on running, because I'm sure it is a fun time working the night shift in the UK. There's so many fun things that happen on the night shift. The night shift is a world of wondrous adventures. And there's so many interesting people who come in the middle of the night. Like the tweakers. They always come in at night and they're like, hey man, you got Newports? And you're like, what the hell are you talking about, dude? Like, I'm gonna buy you them? Like, get your own money, you bum. And then they go back outside or they, like, stab someone on the way out. But beyond that, the night shift is always a fun time. Like, I gotta say, though, really, like, I don't know what it is, but the freakiest things always do happen at night. Like, we've worked normal jobs, you know, like beyond being a YouTuber, which is not normal at all. And I remember that when it got closer to night, or it would turn nighttime and the sun would set outside, the freaking weirdest people would come in. Like, it was always just like a flow of them too. Like, there was never a normal person that came in after the sun went down, at least where I was working. And usually I would get off at like 9 or 10 sometimes, and this was back when I worked at Publix, and like the sun would go down around like 6:30, so you know the store was open till 9, and from 6:30 to 9, like literally the weirdest people would come in, and they always had like the weirdest questions. They would be like, I want yesterday's paper. And you'd be like, why the hell do you want yesterday's paper? It's today. Like, why do you want the news from yesterday? Or are you trying to catch up? Like, I don't even know what you'd want it for. And then there was like, oh my lord, man. Like, I think someone I remember threw up. And like, no one ever threw up in the store. The only time people would throw up would literally be after 6:30, and it would always happen near the produce section. Like, Mandy, I don't even know if you ever had that happen when you were working at Publix, but it happened like twice. And it was always like this big deal. Like, everyone started freaking out. Oh my god, someone threw up. Someone's got to clean it. And I was always like, oh, I'm working over here. Like, I'm not going over there. And yeah, it's weird working a night shift. I'll be entirely honest.
I never had anything like that happen. Not at all. I did have someone come in and shoplift the hell out of the store I was working in, though, sort of late at night. They just walked in with a big purse, and apparently they went off in the corner as nobody was looking, and just started stuffing their purse full of shirts. And they walked out of the store with, like, I don't know how many shirts it was or something like that. We had to look back on the surveillance camera, and they walked out with, like, 20 or 30 shirts or something like that. And it was just like in the middle of the day, or like it was getting close to nighttime, I think, or something like that. They just walked out of the store with like 20 or 30 shirts. And we looked back on the surveillance camera, was like, oh my god. They literally like opened the purse up like it was like some type of like storage locker, like, you know, bottomless pit. And started like the shirts disappeared in the purse. It's like, what the hell is like kind of purse is this? But they walked out with like a few $100s worth of stuff.
Dude, it was, they cased the set and conducted a freaking heist on the shirts. Like, they were like, we're just getting out with as many shirts as we can. But I'll be honest with you, like, my experiences with working even, like, not night shift, but at least after, like, you know, sundown, it was never good. Like, I just remember it was never that good. So I have to give a huge commendation and a big shout out to all of the night shift workers out there. I know y'all always deal with slightly weird stuff. I know you're probably dealing with that, Kif, in the UK. I don't know how it is in the UK with like weird people, like, you know, like just odd people coming in and doing weird things. But I hope that it is okay and an uneventful night shift for you tonight. And I hope that we're helping you to pass the time and get through it, regardless of it, whether there are weird people or not. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are going to be moving on to the next one. I thank you so much once again for the support, Kif, and I hope that your night shift goes incredibly well. And I thank you once again for enjoying us, helping you to pass the time. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Lord Lathos LSA once again, who puts in a 10 and says, Matt, this is for my live chat question, and long live the LSA. And thank you very much once again, Lord Lathos, for that support. And we shall grab a live chat question. And this one is going to go to Brian T., who said, did they have a practice missiles, or do they think, well, hold on here, I think he had a typo. He said, do they have practice missiles, or do they use the nuke warhead out before firing?
They just move the nukes out before they fire them. These are actual missiles. These are the real missiles they would use if they were to conduct a nuclear strike. It's just that the nuclear warheads are removed. So with that, I hope that does address that question quite well indeed. And thank you once again for asking a very good question. That's actually a great one. And thank you for sponsoring that live chat as well, Lord Lathos LSA. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Dupper Bob, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Dupper, as well. He said, all the airlines in India will eventually ferry North Korean troops to Ukraine for Russia. You should watch for it.
And wait a minute, read that one again, Matthew. Read it again.
He said, all the airlines in India will eventually ferry North Korean troops to Ukraine for Russia. Just watch for it.
Maybe. I'm actually downing that one a little bit. If anyone's going to transport them into Russia, it'll probably be Russian Airlines or it'll be Air Koryo. But Air Koryo is running an antiquated line of aircraft. I was able to see that myself because Sam Twee was on them, and he was always smiling. I think in that instance, his life depended on it, but nevertheless, I will say their aircraft are ancient. So let me show y'all really quickly. Just so that way you all know, they have these aircraft in service. One Tupolev 204, one Tupolev 204-100B, two Ilyushin 62Ms, and two Antonov 148s. That's it. That's their whole airline. It's literally just 6 aircraft. That's it. And these are probably their best, the Ilyushin 62s, at least in terms of size and carrying capacity, but they are terrible. Like, you know, obviously they're Soviet made, so they didn't have any considerations for like noise or anything like that. So these engines create an insanely high amount of noise inside of the cabin. You can't hear anything. You're pretty much slowly going deaf in there. And I just think that for the large part, it's not going to be Air Koryo. The Russians would probably requisition a decent amount of aircraft from Aeroflot, which is the Russian airlines. That's pretty much like almost state-run. Oh, by the way, if y'all ever thought like the Russians are having an identity crisis, you really can tell because Aeroflot still held over the sickle and hammer logo from the old Soviet days in the modern-day Russian Federation. So if you're ever thinking, the Russians having an identity crisis? Yes, because it's on the logo of Aeroflot. But beyond that, let me go and see. Oh, wait a minute, hang on. What is this here? The airline was founded in 1923, making it one of the oldest active airlines in the world. Yeah, but it was like propped up by the Soviet Union, so it's like, does that really count? But anyways, let's see here. Yeah, it's just hang on. We want to go to the inventory. Holy moly. An IL-14, that's literally just like a DC-4.
Yeah, basically. It looks like a replica.
Man, I'll bet you it is. Let's see here. It was designed as a replacement to the DC-3. Let's see here, but hang on. I'm sure there has to be something about a DC-4 in here. Nope, actually there's not. Apparently it was just like almost entirely based on the DC-3, but it has like, instead of it being like a traditional gear layout for the time, it was more so modern gear layout. But nevertheless, let's see here. We need to find their modern fleet of aircraft. So here we go, the Aeroflot fleet. And let's see here. It's actually not that big. They have some 777s, some 777s, some 737s. Oh man, they got 37 737s. Oh, buddy, hopefully they're all Maxes. They got some A350s, A330s, A321s, more A321s, some A320s, and then a lot of A320-200s. So they'll probably do most of the airlifting, to be entirely honest. But still, I thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address it quite well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Bobo Vasquez, who put in a $10 donation, and thank you very much, Bobo, for that support.
Hey.
And also, he said he's going to bed, so good night to you as well. But real quick, he said, because of your channel, I've been unburdened by what has been.
Oh, and I thank you so much for being unburdened by what has been in the all-seeing eye. But still, I thank you so much once again for support. And I thank you for finding this channel to be a salt, and also hopefully allowing us to hopefully lessen your worries, because we try and, of course, let people know about all the big things that's going on in the world, but of course let folks know it's either largely under control or it isn't going to be that big of a deal that directly impacts people and ends their lives or anything like that. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Zach Garber, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Zach, for the support. He said, check out the Nebraska State Capitol.
The Nebraska State Capitol. And of course, the Nebraska State Capitol would be in the capital of Nebraska, which is Lincoln. And so let's go down to Lincoln, and it should be, right? Did I get it wrong? Oh no, I think I may have gotten this wrong. Oh no. Oh god, now I'm gonna really look like an idiot. It's not Lincoln, is it? It's not. Hang on. Let me think. Oh my lord. I got that wrong. Okay, so let me think. Let me put it together. It's Omaha, most likely. Is it Omaha?
Yes, it's Omaha.
Where the hell is it?
Where the hell? Where'd I go?
Just like I don't know, man. Like, and I've gotten it wrong twice now, and I feel really dumb. So let's see here. Oh my lord, let's just type in Nebraska state capital. There we go. No, I was right. It was in Lincoln. I was right. I was right. Dude, I was right.
Why'd you fake me out?
What?
Why'd you fake me out?
Dude, I legitimately thought I was wrong as well. For some reason, I thought it was Omaha. I was right. It was Lincoln, and I'm really stupid now because I was literally just hovering right over it and then left to go to Omaha. So here it is. This looks a lot like the state capital of Louisiana. Like, it's cool. Oh, it's really cool, actually. Wow. That is pretty neat. I like it. That is cool.
That is pretty cool. I do like that. Very, very contemporary.
Dude, they said your state's only reason for existence is to grow corn and soy. How drippy are you going to make your capital? And they said yes, and they came up with this masterpiece. This is incredible, actually. I would have to say, as far as interior design goes, it's a 10 out of 10. As far as exterior design goes, I give it like a 7. I'm not really a fan of like the whole tower thing, but still it works for this building without a doubt. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. Thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And was that a train station? Was that a train station in Lincoln? And it's a train station that has the California Zephyr pass through. Nice, I like that. Also, one more thing before we go, and I'm also trying to make sure that we keep this within time tonight, but they had the Union Pacific Railroad Museum, and I just have to look, Matthew. I have to because I didn't know this was here. Holy moly! They got a bison. Bro.
Bison.
Amazing. What else do they have? It's not a big building at all, and they have lamps, and they have a model of a trestle bridge, and, oh my god, they are encouraging you to blow stuff up? What the hell? Dude, Union Pacific's like, blow it up! Like, it's the Union Pacific Railroad Police in Afghanistan, the Army's like, what do we do? And they're like, blow it up! But beyond that,
that's
still...
a replica of what Kim Jong-un has on his desk. A sign that says, blow it up with a red button.
Dude, when the demons are speaking to him, he looks at the sign, and he's like, I should do it today. Like, it's like, it's like, that'd be hilarious if it actually said, blow it up on Kim Jong-un's nuclear button. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Bruce Lee, who puts in a 5 and says, getting crunk while lurking, delivering dominoes and sipping on Sprite made of flavored syrup and melted carbonated snow. LSA and hello, Pups and Marmot.
And hello, Pups and Marmot, and thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And also, thank you so much for really enjoying the channel, Bruce Lee. And I hope that you've been enjoying that a coffee made of snow or melted carbonated snow. And thank you so much once again for getting crunk as you watched the video today. And Marmot, and thank you so much once again for supporting and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Timogen, who puts in a 5 and says, LSA all the way, a best stream anywhere, and thank you guys for all the hard work. And thank you very much, Timogen, for the kind words as well. That's very kind of you. We appreciate it.
And that is kind of you, Timogen. And I thank you so much for the kind words and the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one. But thank you, Timogen, for the very kind words and being a legend.
Indeed. The next one here goes to the Vulture, 1066, who puts in a 5 and says, can separate nations send troops and not be NATO troops?
Yes, because these like NATO is a alliance of nations. These nations can still act individually, but the alliance can't act in a unified way in an offensive manner. It can only act in a unified way in a defensive manner. And so I hope that does explain that quite well, at least with how NATO works. But they can send troops individually. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one is going to go to Kevin, who puts in a 5 and says, I'm an amateur radio guy, and I appreciate that you actually put the real Morse messages in during the intro, and cool Easter egg.
And thank you so much for enjoying that, Kevin. We've been doing that actually for like 3 years now, and a lot of people don't know that's a real message that's new every single night. A lot of people are like, I wonder what it says, or if it says anything at all. And it's like, no, every night it says something. And we always have the Morse code decoders read off during our live chat segment, and we actually read off what the message says every single night. And so thank you, Kevin, for enjoying that greatly, because I'm glad that people actually know it's a real message and it's not just for the aesthetic, really. But so with that, thank you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to Eternal Core, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, Eternal Core, for the $5 support. And we had, hold on just a second, wait a minute. I got distracted by a live chat over there. I was trying to read something. I saw Dallas, and I was like, what? Excuse me? But anyways, this one goes back to Eternal Core, but it's in a 5, and says, you missed my super chat the other day, so here's a new one. Optimus Prime, LSA rollout. And also, sorry if we did miss your super chat. I wish you could specify exactly which day it was, though, so I can go back and do some quality control checking to see if it was on YouTube's end, or was it something that I missed. But nonetheless, thank you very much for the support. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it was not for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible. If we did miss your super chat, I'm dreadfully sorry that we did. But if we did not, I would like to wonder why we didn't. Please let us know what the super chat was. We will go back and check our logs to see if it ever came through. And if it didn't, we will let you know. And if it did, we will make sure to read it off on the next night and address it. But still, thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so our next one here goes to Rad Doctor, who puts in a 5, and thank you very much, Rad Doctor, for the support. They said, a couple years ago, my family took a vacation to Alaska and traveled via the Alaskan Railroad, and they have glass cars and observation platforms. It's amazing.
And it is amazing. It is actually very cool. The thing though about the White Pass and Yukon Route Railway is that it's a narrow gauge railway, which is very interesting about it. And it also has a decent amount of electromotive diesel power, like these right here. But it also still has steam, which is pretty cool in its own fact. But if you were to ever talk about steam, I think the people that beat them are the East Broadtop Railroad down in Pennsylvania, which is just around here near Shippensburg and Chambersburg, somewhere in that area. I think they're really cool. But once again, it's really a preference of opinion. I would like to go and ride the train up there one day, though, because I love trains, and I would just love to ride them. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that quite well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here is going to go to, guess who? It's going to go to Siri, who puts in a $5 donation, and thank you very much, Siri, for that support. And it said, congrats on 300,000 Enforcer Bros, and thank you, Siri. It said, amazing to see this channel grow plus thrive, and EXO from Oslo, and we had a wild tram crash here yesterday, and check it out.
And we have. And look at that, Matthew. The tram slammed right through the front of a stow.
It looks like, was that a Starbucks that slammed through?
I don't think so. Let me see what store it was. We have another picture here. It was not a Starbucks. It's something else. I can't read the logo on it. But it injured.
Yeah, they got tram right in the back.
Man, I guess you could say that this tram was not really tramming. It was untramming. But nevertheless, pretty wild to see. This looks like it just went through the building because there's still smoke coming off the front of the tram from like the rocks it crushed and stuff. But still, that is actually pretty wild. Unfortunately, here folks were injured. Hopefully not too much, but still, that is wild to see. Trams don't really derail much. Usually they never get up to a speed high enough. So I wonder what caused this thing to derail, but that's still pretty interesting. Usually you just never hear about tram derailments ever. But still.
Well, seriously, that was the Apple store. Oh, damn. So, okay, I know how Apple stores look. Like, they're really, like, spaced out and very, like, open. So I guess the thing just went running through there with people standing there looking at oh, goodness. Oh, that's a firefighter. I was about to say, damn, that guy got really bad, but he's just looking under there. But thankfully, nobody got caught in the train, hopefully. But yeah, looking at iPads 1 minute, next moment, you got a tram in your face.
Man, technology. Impressive technology. Long lasting.
Apple Intelligence couldn't predict that one coming.
I don't think it could. I don't think it did. Or otherwise, it probably would have said, move out of the way, or something like that, and then you would have moved, and then it would have run through. But still, that is very unfortunate, but still whack. Like, you just never see stuff like that. So with that, thank you so much once again for support, Siri. I hope that does address that quite well. And also, thank you so much once again for congratulating us on 300,000 subscribers. We wouldn't have been able to do it without folks like you, and thank you for being here for quite some time. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running.
Yes, indeed. And our next one here goes to Andrew Honeycutt, who puts in the 5 and says, I would like to hear your thoughts on the Lafayette Escadrille and especially Eugene Bullard. And the story is fascinating. I think it's relevant.
And I thank you so much for the support, but I'll have to be entirely honest with you. Lafayette Escadrille is a air squadron I'm not really familiar with that much, to be entirely honest. I'm a big World War I buff, but the French Air Corps, or really the Air Force as it would later become, is something that I'm not really familiar with that much, to be entirely honest with you, nor Eugene Bullard, who was one of the first, I believe, African-American military pilots in the world, but I don't really know much about either of them because they both really fall under French military history in World War I, which while I know a bit of, it's mostly based on the ground forces and not really the air forces involved in the conflict. So unfortunately, I'd have to declare ignorance on that at the moment. I could try and read up on them a little bit and maybe talk about them a little bit more, but talking about them like this, it requires a really in-depth understanding, so I might not be able to do that for quite some time, but still, a very interesting thing. Also, very interesting to see a certain kind of a symbol, Matthew, on the side of the emblem of this Native American.
Oh. Oh, dear.
Because many of y'all may not know this, but before World War II, this was actually a pretty common symbol to see, because it was generally a universal symbol of good luck and fortune, which is actually why the Nazis ended up using it, because they were wanting to symbolize that their party was going to be the party of good luck and fortune to the German people, and then it ended up not. But still, it's fairly interesting, because the swastika was actually a fairly common bit of a symbol here in America, especially in Native American cultures, until after World War II. But still, I hope that does address at least that little tidbit fairly well, and thank you so much for giving us support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to LSA Sergeant Figment, who puts in a 2 and says, LSA hit the like button. That's an order.
And that is an order. And I thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, LSA Sergeant Figment, we wouldn't be able to be here right now. Please, folks, do hit that like button. We've gotten up to 2,600 likes. We would love to see more. It would make us so happy. Please, please do. But still, thank you so much once again. And we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Vulture 1066, who puts in a $2 donation. And they said at least Norway have several political parties.
And Norway does?
I wouldn't be shocked.
I wouldn't be shocked either. A uniparty system would be a dictatorship, so I'm not that shocked. But I do thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible. And so with that, thank you once again, and we are on to the next one.
And the next one is, guess what? Going to be the Morse code decoders of the streams. We're fresh out of Super Chat. So once again, huge shout out to everybody once again that's donated tonight. And we are not capping. We are on 100, keep it 100. And we're moving on to our Morse code decoders of the stream. And tonight we had the whole roster. It was Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, Kevin J, Paul Schultz, David Millsaps, Royal Fluffiness, and Arabelle Garbo. They said the LSA Morse code decipher core says, Czechs getting hit from FSB forces just across the border sounds like domestic abuse. Long live the LSA.
And it sounds right. Like, shh, that's the sound of money. And y'all hit that dead on the nail. I think that is the Morse code message of the night. I gotta congratulate y'all for getting that dead on the nail. I know it wasn't Czechs, though. It was Chechens, because the Russians aren't beating up the Czechs. They're beating up the Chechens. But nevertheless, I do congratulate y'all for getting that correct on the 979th day of the war, because y'all continue to get that correct time and time again, and it really is quite impressive. And so with that, we are on into the live chat segment. I also want y'all to know that we are going to be taking a reduced live chat segment tonight. We're only going to be taking 5 live chats because Matthew and me have not been getting a lot of sleep recently because we've been having to go on a lot of things. And so we want to try and get a little bit of sleep tonight so that way we can try and, hopefully recover from the overall lack of sleep that we've been getting for about a month at this point, and at least behind the scenes that we haven't talked about that much. But with that, we are on to the 5th to last question of the night, brother. What do we have?
And this one goes to Finite Says, who says, whatever happened with Ukraine being trained in Poland?
They are still being trained in Poland. In fact, they're being trained in Poland, Germany, France, and Spain, as well as the UK, all at the same time. So nothing has happened. It's still going on. And so I hope that answers that well, and we are on to the 4th to last question of the night.
All right, and this question right here is going to go to Anonymous, who says, could there be a spy in Kadarov's top brass that is influencing his reasoning?
There may be. We wouldn't be able to ever say that definitively because I don't want to be like the Financial Times sitting there going, there were 3 words missing from this Chinese letter. This means that China's about to nuke North Korea. Like, I don't want to be that kind of a person, but there could be. It's just that we wouldn't really know on our level until well after the war and probably decades later when all that information would come forward to the public. But possibly, maybe. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. We are on to the third to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Terry Butterfield, who says, a question for later, which actually is right now. They said, what's with the drones over Norfolk and whatever the airbase is right next to it? The thing with that, Terry, I've been actually researching that quite a bit over the last couple of days in the background. This is a side thing. It looks like it could be maybe Chinese spies. It looks like it could be that. There was a gentleman, which we will not name because I think it's just charges right now. I'm not sure if he pleaded guilty to it or not. But he was flying a drone around the shipyard in Norfolk, which apparently was taking pictures of it. I think he was saying he was a drone hobbyist or something like that, and it's not really clear what he was really doing. But he claims that he was taking pictures of the drone or the shipyard with his drone for hobby purposes. But the pictures were very specific, at least from what I could tell, and it looked a little bit suspicious. But obviously, we don't have any information about what he was really doing, so we really can't say. But nonetheless, I think they're trying to get some images here of some crucial places. That's my suspicion. But Enforcer, what say you?
Do you have these pictures to show me very quickly, Matthew? Because I would like to take a look at them to survey them myself.
Let's see here. Let me find them. Let's see. Also, by the way, I have to give this little disclaimer here. If anyone knows the individual we're talking about, if you've seen him in the news, these are all allegedly. We're not saying the guy did anything specifically or not. It's all allegedly. But let's see here. Let's see.
Aye, Captain.
So I do have an image for you, sir. Don't ask me where I found it, but I do have the image. Let me send it over.
We'll send it over.
The government's going to be like, oh boy, where'd he get that image from? We'll just have to leave that to the imagination. But anyways, let's upload this file here.
Is it in the Discord?
It is now in the Discord. Oh, don't go to the Discord. Don't go there. Don't go there. Let me resend it.
Oh heavens!
Not an appropriate file. Oh dear. Okay, now here we go. Oh dear, it's almost a disaster. Take a look.
All right, we're going to take a look here. Yes, this is intelligence gathering, no doubt, because you see,
you think
you don't take a picture of the dry docks, you see, where they're building new vessels for nothing, you see, because the whole reason the ships are being built in the dry dock is so that way they can keep them concealed from the public. Like many of y'all may know that back in the day they used to construct vessels on slipways, but as we started to need to become a little bit more secretive on shipbuilding and design, we started to build them inside of dry docks so that way you could largely conceal it from the public and the press, so that way they wouldn't know the exact design and construction of the vessel. And this picture right here is clearly trying to get a picture of the vessel that is being put up on the chocks in the dry dock that's being constructed at the moment. So yes, I would say that this man is probably doing something quite suspicious indeed, and he should be investigated and possibly charged, because that is a violation of national security. You see, he was actually taking a picture of these dry docks right here. If y'all ever wondered where they were, they're actually up in Newport News, but you can see them all. And
well, I actually have some more information here. According to the Minnesota Star Tribune, the individual that took this photograph right here was a Chinese national who attended the University of Minnesota. He received a 6-month prison term.
Sabotage. This is...
Oh, crap, I didn't know what that was. But apparently he received a 6-month prison term for flying his drone over a highly secure naval shipbuilding complex, which you saw there in the photo. And it appears he was sentenced. And apparently he pled guilty to 2 misdemeanor counts of use of aircraft for unlawful photographing of a designated installation without authorization. So apparently he's in prison from the looks of it.
Well, I would say that's where he needs to be, because that picture in particular, just the one I saw, that is 100% showing that the guy was gathering information, most likely for the Chinese. That's not something that we should allow. That's not something that gets you a slap on the wrist. And hopefully we'll see. Although, to be honest, the reason why we have a picture is because it's starting to circulate on the internet. So the news is out, but we need to find a way to try and contain that from being spread in the future, quite obviously, because really having it to where anyone could fly a drone over one of the most important naval shipyards, at least for the military, the Navy specifically, in the nation, that seems to be a bit of a security issue. Maybe they need to start looking into anti-drone measures around the area of Newport News, possibly. But anyways, with that, also someone said 6 months is sad. That should be life in prison. I don't think it should be life, but I think that should be at least, in my opinion, 10 years. I would like 6 months is light, like for that. That is putting national security interest at risk, at great risk, as a matter of fact. But anyways, with that, I hope
Well, it didn't sound like they charged him with espionage. It sounded like they charged him with a small count misdemeanors. Really, it didn't sound like a big charge, like a felony.
that is dumb. That is just dumb. It's like we're speaking of national security interests. It's like, God forbid the guy flew the drone over a dry dock and he somehow got a picture of an exposed submarine propeller. That would have been like freaking doomsday for half of the subfleet. Like, I don't know if you know that, Matthew, but do you know that submarine propellers are actually classified in their design and they shroud them whenever pictures are taken of submarines, so that way you can't see the propeller structure? If he had taken a picture of a propeller on one of these submarines, everyone in the
sound signature and detect it in the water.
Yeah, they would be able to identify all of our submarines, probably half of them, and detect them immediately. Like, that's a massive security risk right there, and that should be dealt with. We should find some way to either stop them from doing something like that, or at least, well, charging them and putting them in prison. We're dealing with probably Chinese fanatics here if they're doing something like that. So, prison sentences wouldn't mean that much as long as they get the information and send it back. So we just need to be able to find ways to stop them from doing that in the first place. Either putting up anti-drone measures near to the area of Newport News and also Norfolk to stop them from taking pictures, or something along those lines, because that's not good at all. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least from what I would know. And with that, we are on to the second to last question of the night, I believe.
And this one goes to Joe Emily, who says, if the U.S. is serious, would we allow greater use of weapons versus Ukraine sacrificing kids? Or is the United States really that sad?
That's an interesting way to read the question. Can I hear that one again?
They said if the U.S. is serious about letting Ukraine strike back, like the U.S. president said today, would we allow the greater use of weapons on Russia versus Ukraine having to sacrifice their kids, meaning lowering the conscription age, or is the United States really that sad?
We kind of, if you want to say it's sad, we kind of are that sad at the moment, because while we're telling them to smack them around, we aren't really giving them the ability to smack them around entirely. So that would be my take on the matter. And it is just one that I find very annoying, because we tell the Ukrainians to use all measures necessary, and then we limit a lot of the measures that they can take. Hopefully we'll see that changes here in the future, regardless of how things go, but I'm not sure if it will. And so with that, I hope that does address that quite well indeed, and we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who is the lucky last person to throw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is AF Kaplan. He says, regarding the drone attack on Chechnya, have there been any reports of partisan activity near that area?
There have been some partisan activities in the area. If we want to be exact, I can say the groups. In Ingushetia, it's the Ingushetian Liberation Army, and in Dagestan, it's actually ISIS-K that are in operation around the area of Chechnya at the moment. But we don't know that they've ever been in possession of drones or ever shown to be using drones in an offensive manner. So if anyone was to fire a drone, just based off of the prior intelligence that we have, it will most likely be the Russian FSB firing a drone into Chechnya, because we've never seen the ILA or ISIS-K ever use a drone in an offensive manner in this region over 3 years. And so if one of them did that for the first time ever, that would change everything we would know at the moment. But from what we understand, the Russians are the only ones that are drone capable at the moment and can actually strike the Chechens. And so that's why it's leading us to believe that it would be the Russians out of anyone that would be in this local area. And so with that, I hope that does address that quite well. And we have reached the end of tonight's stream. I thank you all so much once again for watching, and if y'all have enjoyed, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and please make sure to go get yourself a Make Russia Small Again shirt, link in the description below. But of course, I thank you all so much once again for watching the stream tonight, and I hope that y'all have enjoyed it massively. We've had 60,000 people here since the stream started, and about 7.2 thousand people at the peak, which is very nice of you all. I thank you all so much for watching, and we always love to be y'all's primary source of news. But we will see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of news from around the world, and also Matthew will probably see y'all in the middle of the day tomorrow to make another delicious short war summary. And so with that, good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, and long live the Leah Spring Army, and good night.
And with that, folks, thank you all for another great stream tonight. It's been a very good one, and so far, 57,000 people have joined us for tonight's stream, and of course, we're very appreciative for that. And also, like the Enforcer said, be sure to go check out those Make Russia Small Again shirts, which are on officialenforcerstore.com. They'll only be there for about 5 days or so until Saturday, so be sure to go check them out while you can. And with that, we'll see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern, and also midday as well for the short war video, if there is enough news to cover. And with that, Slava Ukraine, Herom Slava, get some rest, and we'll see you then, and good night.
Yes. The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Army shall